This past weekend, I played in the upstate New York inaugural Pauper Open with Cycle Storm, and I recorded all of my matches. Let's go check it out. This video is proudly sponsored by Card Market. In front of you is my Moxfield deck list for Cycle Storm that I played this past weekend in the inaugural upstate New York Pauper Open, held by that Discord. In fact, you can find that Discord's link on the QR code in front of you or in the description down below if you're interested in joining that Discord for Pauper Play. And in their event, I was a sponsored creator. I was very fortunate, and I played Pauper Cycle Storm. The deck list in front of you should look like the one that I played in my previous video that you can find in the card above, with one small change. I ended up not loving the Magmakin Artillerist and ended up cutting it for Imposing Vantasaur. Why didn't I love it? I said it was so good in the last video. You got to do this end stem trick, and it allows you to win with less mana. Well, I ended up playing over 100 matches with it in the main deck, and it never came up. So I was like, okay, maybe it's just a sideboard card for Prismatic Strands. So I ended up moving one to the sideboard over the second copy of Dispel. Okay, and you might be thinking, that seems reasonable, let's try it. So that's what I did, and there was a match that, so I only boarded it in versus like Coggates and then mono white aggro that has Prismatic Strands and Thraben Charm, and I ended up having the Magmakin Artillerist. But if it was a Dispel, I actually would have won the match instead, and what ended up happening was I lost to a Thraben Charm. So I think Dispel ends up being better on average, and now I'm just not running anything to beat Prismatic Strands because I don't think you actually need it. I think that 2 copies of Dispel will get the job done. And if you're interested in the deck list in front of you, you can find that in the description down below, where I always put every Moxfield deck list for every video that we do. So if you're ever interested in a deck list, check that out. But other than that, this is the same exact deck list as the previous video. If you're interested for the sideboard guide, please go to theepicstorm.com/shop, where you can find the sideboard guide for this deck list. I had it up even before the event if you wanted to be on the same deck list as me. And I usually do that for most large events. You can buy it through the Shopify link that is often in the description down below as well, but then you have to pay $1 more and I get upcharged on fees. So I would definitely recommend going to theepicstorm.com/shop. And yeah, as for the event itself, it was run by Mitch Brown, who did a wonderful job. The event went pretty smoothly. Everyone seemed to have a pretty good time. I ran into a bunch of friends that I haven't seen in a long time, so it was a good time being there. On top of that, there was a giveaway that I was a part of. Let me bring that up. Here we go. I gave a KMC Hyper Phoenix to everyone who entered. They're KMC's premium sleeves, top of the line. They're better than the Hyper Mats, and I gave one to everyone who entered. Being sponsored by KMC, I receive a certain amount every month, and I've just been saving them up for giving them back to everyone else. So that's what ended up happening here. And I gave one to all 78 players that entered the event, which was just kind of sweet, and getting to see everyone be excited for this giveaway was awesome. So shout out to KMC for sponsoring the channel, and I'm glad that everyone seemed to enjoy the Hyper Phoenix sleeves. And yeah, which is just great. In fact, I still have some sleeves left over, so I've also uploaded those to the epicstorm.com/shop if you're interested in buying some KMC sleeves from me personally. And that is all it really that I have for the deck tech. Why don't we just well, actually, there's one more thing. So round number 1, there's going to be an issue, and I'm sorry, but I had a different arm angle. So I had 2 different ways I could record my matches. One is a tripod that just goes up and then tilts the phone that I use to record my matches. And the other is what you would think of like a microphone arm, where it's directly above and then tilts down. And I was like, that's probably a better angle. Let's try that. But the way that it works is it has to hold your phone with the screen being touching the clamp. And what ended up happening is the clamp with the screen touching it, it made it want to zoom in. So the middle of the play area is all we see. It's fixed for matches 2 through 7, but round number 1, it's not going to look so great. You'll see it when we get there. I mean, if you don't want to watch that, you can go ahead and skip to match number 2, but I would appreciate it if you joined us for the first round. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and let's go see some paper Pauper magic. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. You can also show your support by becoming a member of this channel. You get sweet perks such as badges, emotes, early access to videos, exclusive members only content, and access to our members Discord section. As you increase the tiers, there are other rewards such as shop discounts, sideboard guides, and even free donation decks. Click the join button down below to find out more. We also have other ways you can support us, like theepicstorm.com/shop or submitting a donation deck via theepicstorm.com/donation decks. That's enough for now. Let's play some Magic. Welcome to the first round. So I will be narrating all of the video today. There's not going to be audio from the video. There's a couple reasons for that. One, the room was incredibly loud and I couldn't shorten any of the silences that way, but also just a lot of feedback, stuff like that. The second reason, a lot of my opponents swore like sailors. The language was not appropriate for the Epic Storm YouTube channel. We're a family-friendly channel here. And yeah, so we're not going to have the video, or the audio, I'm sorry. And here you can see the over top view that I described in the deck tech. It's really zoomed in. And if you're not someone who watches the deck tech, I will reiterate that right now. So I have a tripod that I have tried recording with in the past where it goes straight up and then tilts the camera and you get a side angle. You'll see that the remainder of the video. For round number one, I tried a arm that I have that has a clamp to it where you can attach a phone. And in order to record, I had to put my phone in there. And then once it touched the clamp, it zoomed in. And now we're only seeing the middle of the table. And just for this one match, we're going to get sort of poor quality just because you're not going to be able to see much, if I'm being honest with you. So yeah, if you're not interested in watching one zoomed in match, skip ahead to match number 2. I do apologize. It was a growing pain that I experienced and then I corrected. So we're dealing with that. I did lose the die roll this round. In fact, I'm pretty sure I lost like my first 3 or 4 die rolls. So I will be on the draw here. And my opponent is playing Jund Gardens. They happened to reveal a couple cards when shuffling, so I knew the matchup from the get-go. On top of that, she had to borrow cards that weren't in her sideboard, and the person brought them over and just like threw them on the table, and she was just like, just so you know, I guess I have Dragon's Breath in my sideboard. So I had a pretty good idea. Here she plays a turn 1 bridge, I play a Vault of Whispers and pass, and then I don't remember exactly what happens on turn 2 here, but I'm guessing we're going to find out. All right, it is the cycling fetch land, and something happened here. I'm not sure what, though. Something for a red or a green. A blood token. Maybe it was a Voldaren Epicure? But that, I don't think that sees play, unless she tried to play a blood fountain off a land that doesn't tap for black, which might have been what happened here. On the end step, I cycle a Drannith Healer. I should have caught that if it was a blood fountain. Not legal. And the fetch land on the end step, if I remember correctly, ends up grabbing a swamp. I cycle on the main phase looking for land number 2, and I actually hit the Great Furnace, which was not in my opening hand. And then the fetch land is activated. I understand that this is not a great play experience, and you might be saying, couldn't you move the camera from behind the sidebar? Grabs a basic forest, okay, not a swamp. And the video behind me doesn't really exist. Like, you're not going to be able to see much more. Like, the video ends where it is right now on the screen. This is not me zooming in for the sake of the video. This is just where the video starts and ends. So, as I mentioned, if you don't want to watch this, you're not going to hurt my feelings. Go ahead to skip match to number 2. And, you know, we'll join you eventually. But I think that there's some interesting things that happen. And I think it's worth keeping the video in for now. Another thing worth mentioning is you might notice how the camera's shaking a little bit. That happens all day. I was on a table next to Kalikai's, and we were both recording our matches, but also they were like, you know, not wooden tables. They were, you know, some sort of plastic. And when people moved or touched the table, they happened to move. So had to live with that. Our opponent plays a Vault of Whispers. I cycle a Drannith Stinger. And, you know, if I remember correctly, I'm off to the races fairly soon. I still have a Great Furnace. It's just on top of the Vault of Whispers over there. That is not my land drop for the turn. I cycle another creature, looking for that 3rd land. Another Great Furnace, okay. Oh, I'm getting out the storm counters. Let's go. All right, that's what I'm into. I don't actually remember all of this. I guess I played a Dark Ritual. Or is this a Cabal Ritual? Probably a Cabal Ritual. Your guess is as good as mine here. All right. And if you're interested, you can grab those over at theepicstorm.com/shop. In fact, we are starting to get low on inventory. I'm down to about 110 of this token pack left. When it's gone, there will be a new token pack that has new things in it. But in the meantime, I have to get rid of the 110 or so that we have in stock currently. It's probably going to be a few months, but I would appreciate your help getting rid of this token pack. And yeah, I mean, it's great for Pauper Cycle Storm. I actually combined a few of them in order to build my token pack for this event. So I ended up, I think I opened up 2 or 3 of them. I took out all the black mana, and I ended up with like 30 or 40 storm counters. And then I just like left the other colors in a deck box somewhere. But I kept all the black ones, and I grabbed like a couple of each of the other colors. I did have a regret, though. I forgot to grab the Creatures in Graveyard token. So throughout the event, I ended up just using a D20 to indicate the number of creatures in Graveyard. And, you know, people ask me, like, what are you doing? It's just like, oh, this is the creature count. And I would normally use a D20 anyway, but it would have been a little more clear if I had remembered that token instead of forgetting it at home. So I made a red mana at some point. This is not great to watch. The opponent tries to hand me a treasure, and I remember this. At this point, I'm like, oh no, trust me, I have Japanese foil sign tokens because my deck is all Japanese foil. Not that you would know because you can't really see it here, but I do have nice tokens to go with my deck. I do have treasure tokens in the token pack as well, but I'm someone who likes all of my stuff being on theme, and Japanese foil signed is my theme. Original printing. I have some people sometimes be like, oh, well, why don't you play the retro frame one? It's like, because I don't care about retro. I only care about the first printing of Japanese foil, and then I go and get it signed. So now we're cycling. I'm getting a little low on mana here. Let's see what I end up doing. I added a storm count, so maybe a Lotus Petal or something. Plus some mana. Must have been a Songs of the Damned. Okay. So if I remember correctly, the way that this game ends is that the opponent just played what I'm guessing is a Blood Fountain illegally on turn 2 off of the wrong bridge. And then I end up winning. But at the end of the game is I just play like 4 Drannith Stingers and start stinging. And she tries a cast down when she's low on life. But it just doesn't matter, and I cycle in response and win. Maybe I'll cut this down so that way we're not going through everything. Just because this isn't enjoyable, right? I feel bad. I mean, I didn't intentionally zoom in. It just happened once I put my phone in the clamp. Oh, and we're off to sideboarding. Sweet. Okay, so we are post Songs of the Damned, and I have a confession to make. I accidentally had to restart the video. So I'm trying to splice together what I already said with where we are now. My apologies. I didn't mean to, but I accidentally restarted the video that's playing in the background, and I had to work my way back here. So lesson learned. I'm glad it happened in this match, the one that's already completely ruined, and not in one later. But so I'm post Songs of the Damned. I believe right now I'm explaining how my deck works to my opponent, and we're having a little bit of a back and forth on like what's about to happen. So I just added some black mana. I'm guessing that's a Dark Ritual, and now I'm cycling. Really can't wait for this round to be over. This just like isn't great content. So I just paid a black and I cycled, and now I'm going through. I must have played a Dark Ritual. My storm count is getting quite large. And you might be saying, why not just use a D20 for all of your black mana and then all of your storm? That is not legal at a competitive REL. So that is why I don't do it. The mini token pack was actually designed for competitive play at competitive REL. Basically, the mana indicators, they need unique tokens. You cannot use dice. There will be some players that try to argue with you. The rules say that you need individual indicators. So that is how I designed the mini token pack. Before this rule, I used to just sell larger one token. So I'd have one large full card size black mana symbol, one large storm token, whatever. And the token pack was only like 13. But after the rules change, I now have I believe it's 20 Storm in the token pack, like 15 black mana, 15 red mana, 15 blue mana, all that stuff. And that is what the rules say you have to do, so that is what I do. If you would like to argue that there's a wall somewhere near you, you can go argue with that, but I'm not really interested in hearing it because the rules say that you're wrong. So I'm going to do whatever the rules say. I just resolved a Cabal Ritual, I'm guessing. No, this is a Songs of the Damned. Look at all that black mana. That means that this game is finally ending. Let's go. And I'm going to pick up all my Storm. Looks like I'm counting it. And now I'm paying for a Reaping the Graves. Yeah, this game is ending. So now I'm playing a Drannith Healer. And I remember being pretty low on life when I played it, thinking that if I play out the Healer, I could cycle a bunch of Street Wraiths. So now I'm playing a Drannith Stinger. And I remember in game number 1, I ended up having 4 Stingers. So there's Stinger number 2, and then another Storm, and now Stinger number 3 will come down, paying a black mana and using a treasure token, and then Stinger number 4 will come down in just a second after I indicate the Storm count. There we go. And the 4th Stinger was just played, and now it's just cycling and dealing 4 damage at a time. And my opponent tries to play a cast down at some moment coming up here, but once you've let a Stinger resolve, the removal doesn't matter. And a secret that I've, realized for a while is people really like to leave in creature removal against Cycle Storm. It so rarely matters. Or they'll leave open creature removal all game instead of just advancing their game plan. And I'm like, cool, you just gave me more time. And creature removal, like, it's so rare that it actually matters. Like, it's such a small percentage of games where I think it's almost wrong to leave open creature removal if you have it. It did matter back when we used to play Repository Scob because the trigger on that cared about creature removal. And there's the cast down. But Ardent Elementalist doesn't care, and now my opponent's just picking up the cards, and we're going to head off to sideboarding. For the sideboarding for this match, once again, you can go to theepicstorm.com/shop and pick up a sideboard guide there. But this matchup, it's -4 Lotus Petals and a Cabal Ritual, and then you bring in the Mountain, the Swamp, the Blood Celebrant, and 2 copies of Siege Smash. And the Siege Smashes are for Nile Spellbomb. You want the basics against Cleansing Wildfire decks. Blood Celebrant's there because if you're going to take out all of your Lotus Petals, you want something there to make a bunch of red mana in order to win the game. It also helps beat Weather the Storm because you can play out 4 Stingers, and colored mana never really matters. Another nice feature of the Blood Celebrant is that it sacrifices to Deadly Dispute for just 1 black. So you never run out of things to sacrifice, which ends up being pretty helpful here. And you'll see that in between games, which is something I ritualistically do, is I organize all of my tokens so that way everything is set up for the next game. The token pack really does make playing in paper so much easier. Before the event started, there was a couple people that came up to me. They're like, oh, I was just so nervous about playing in paper. And that is not something that I've ever once thought. One, I use the Epic Storm mini token pack that I built because, well, I know what I need to do when it comes to paper. But 2, I've been playing Paper Magic since 2001. And I've been playing combo decks almost exclusively since 2006. So I'm used to just, playing convoluted decks, keeping track of my mana. Like, this isn't something that should be, difficult, at least for me. And I think if you're someone that really struggles with playing in paper, you just need to do it more. I barely play paper. Last year, I played in 3 events total. That's not locals or, that is 3 total events, like large events, local events, whatever. I didn't even play a local. In fact, I haven't played a local since 2019. It's been 5-6 years. Like, I just don't play in local events anymore. It's just really tough with the YouTube channel having a home, kids, full-time job, YouTube on the side. Like, I just don't have time to play in local events. So last year I played in Eternal Weekend and 2 Star City Opens, and that was it. The year before I played in 4 total events. So playing in paper, it's built into me at this point, and like, I just don't see it difficult to keep track of Storm and mana. It's really not that tough. It looks like we're about done shuffling. I've presented my deck with KMC Blue Hyper Phoenixes on there. I do have some of those available at theepicstorm.com/shop. I also have some Hard Perfect Fits there, which are the 2 things I use on my own decks. And honestly, after giving them out to a number of people, so many people came up to me, they're like, oh, wow, these are better than Dragon Shields. I used to use Dragon Shields, and now I only use these Hyper Phoenixes and then the Heart Perfects inside. They're just the highest quality sleeve that I've ever used. And I'm not saying that because I'm sponsored. Like, I genuinely believe this, and that's why I use them on my own decks. If I didn't believe it, I would just use something else, because protecting my cards means more than a sponsorship to me. So that is why I use them. Really, the sponsorship, like, if I don't believe in a product, I'm not going to use it or have them on my channel. That's pretty much how I view it. All right, so the opponent has 7. I've laid out my 7 already. And I'll be honest, this game is, it's, you'll see, but it's not as interesting as you may hope. There is a lesson learned in it, though. I will say that. The opponent with a mulligan here. I believe I kept my 7. My 7 was like 2 lands. One of them was a Barrenmoor, I believe. And then like 4 cyclers and a ritual. I feel a little silly because, like, I know for a fact that, like, at least in this first match, I held my hand like this up to the camera a couple times, but because we're so far zoomed in, you can't see. But I held my hand up to the camera so you could see my opening 7s, and obviously none of this worked, and I can't control it. It's fixed for the rest of the matches in this video, but the side angle camera, you do see the camera, the tripod leg is in the rest of the video. So that was another reason I wanted to try this like anchor arm. But the arm ended up not working, and you know, it is what it is, and I'm sorry for that, but I tried something in order to make the content better. I made it worse, and now I know for the next time to not try it again. So I'm glad it happened at a smaller Pauper event rather than a Star City Open or Eternal Weekend or whatever. While my opponent's shuffling up, I went and got this is the tripod that I used for the remaining 4 rounds. It's actually quite nice. You just like unscrew this, and then it raises up, and it's like literally a tripod. So you just use this, you put your phone in here, and then you record your matches that way. So that's what I did for the rest of the event. I have like a 256 gigabyte iPhone 14, and I just cleared all my music off in order to have enough room to record. And then I recorded my matches. 7 rounds was about 14 gigabytes. Most of my rounds were about 30 minutes long. So I did have some downtime in most of the matches. And then, yeah, so I had plenty of room, but I have so much music on my phone where I wouldn't have been able to record the matches without clearing some space. So I deleted all the music, recorded the matches, saw that it was 14 gigabytes, and I was like, oh, that's actually way less than I would have expected for, you know, like 4 or 5 hours worth of footage. So it ended up working out quite nicely, but that's what I did. Obviously here, the anchor arm that I used is now in my basement, so I don't know if I want to go grab that because I don't plan on using it again. But it's literally just like an arm where you bend it over, and it was hovering over the table with a clamp, and then the clamp made it zoom in, my phone that is. So I'm not going to do that again. So my phone's right here though. So I had my phone like this, where this is the back of the phone and this is the top, and then the top was touching the clamp, and when it was touching, it just like zoomed in because there was something there the whole time, and that's why it ended up not working. Where when it's in the clamp, you just have it like this the whole time, and you can actually see the screen, and the clamp just goes here on the tripod because it's a thinner clamp, so your phone is just clamped like this the whole time. So my opponent, I believe, is now mulliganing down to 5. There's 1 card, there's 2 cards. Also, if you're interested, that Storm 10 code does not work on my site, but if you're interested in buying KMC sleeves, Storm 10 for 10% off. You can go to KMC, use that there. My site already has that 10% built in, so that's why it's not on there. But I do have 10% off that you could get other ways. Like if you're a Stormtrooper, which is the middle tier over at our YouTube channel or Patreon, there is a code for 10% off. So my site already has 10% built off. So if you're a Stormtrooper, you then get 20% off total if you use the code from Patreon or YouTube membership. So you could do it that way. Or if you're a member of the Combo Cabal, which is our top tier, you could have 30% off if you do it through the site, because the Combo Cabal gets 20% off all merchandise and stuff like that. So yeah, there's some ways that you could get savings on sleeves. So here we see the initial turns where our opponent plays a Cart Clan Shaman off a bridge. I play Basic Mountain. On their end step, I cycle. I play Vault of Whispers on the second turn. And now I'm shuffling their deck for some reason. Maybe they played a fetch land at some point. They must have. The Twisted Landscape, which explains why the forest was tapped. On their end step, I cycle twice. And I remember thinking, like, I could try to go off on turn 3 here, but my opponent's, like, not doing anything. So I end up playing a Barrenmoor tapped, and I end up passing the turn. That Barrenmoor was in my opening hand. My hand was Vault of Whispers and the Barrenmoor, and then I drew the mountain for turn. And I ended up playing out the mountain because I was like, I don't want my Vault of Whispers being destroyed, because I had Deadly Dispute in hand. So I was like, if I played the Vault of Whispers on turn 2, and then they tried to destroy the Vault of Whispers, I could just Deadly Dispute. And here I play a Great Furnace. And one of the things about boarding out Lotus Petal and boarding into the basic lands is that it does help you beat Graveyard Hate as well by having permanent mana sources to destroy Nile Spellbomb, or you could just naturally beat something like a Bazooka Bog by building out your lands, and then on the end step, cycle 3 or 4 times, untap and win. Just fill your graveyard all at once, and then win that way. So that's another way that you could beat something like a Bazooka Bog, is basically don't have a full graveyard on their turn, and then on their end step, you fill the graveyard, untap and win. So here I'm tapping some mana. I don't know why. Apparently I play a Deadly Dispute. Nice. There's my Japanese Soil Sign treasure token. And now I play another Vault of Whispers. I really wish I wasn't zoomed in. Like, this is kind of painful for me to go through here. Just reliving my mistake over and over again. So I played a Cabal Ritual. Storm count is now 2. Storm 3. I don't know what I played here. Maybe another Deadly Dispute. But if I played a Deadly Dispute, there should be another treasure token incoming. So I'm drawing 2 right there. I just saw it. So there should be a treasure token. I don't know if I put it up top or if I put it down below. Now I'm paying a black. I'm probably cycling. Nope. Okay, this is a Songs of the Damned. I took off 2 mana, so this is probably a Deadly Dispute. I don't know why I would take off 2 black mana if it wasn't a Deadly Dispute. And now I'm cycling. I tried to add the pay the cost with black and then add the storm before I actually take the action. That is something I try to do. If you stay consistent with paying costs, adding storm, and then going through it, you do minimize risk of like double counting storm or paying mana twice, like that sort of thing. It's just get in the habit of doing it consistently one way. So pay costs, add storm, do the effect, etc. I can't say that I'm perfect. I know for a fact there's a judge ruling later in this video because I didn't do everything correctly, but it ended up being resolved. We'll get to it when it happens, but it's just good rule of thumb for paper play. So right now we're in a moment where my opponent hasn't done anything for like 2 minutes, and like the game state has not changed. From what I remember, this is the moment where my opponent has a Weather the Storm in their hand, and it was pretty obvious based on how they played out this entire game. And they're like, should I play it in response to the Stinger? And she tanked for a while, like if I'm being honest, like it was more than a couple minutes. And then eventually the Stinger resolves and I start cycling. She gets low on life, tries to play the Weather, and then I end up killing her in response. So that ends up being the rest of the match. I'm going to cut this short just because this isn't super enjoyable, but that's what ends up happening the rest of it. Like I'm starting to pay cost now. I'm guessing the Stinger has now finally resolved, and now I'm cycling. There's a beautiful monstrous Carabid, Japanese foil signed, and there's the Weather. So I will now cycle in response and eventually kill my opponent with this Japanese foil Weather the Storm on the stack. And there you see, I briefly just cycled the Drannith Healer there, and the game's going to end like this. So thanks for bearing with me. I know that this wasn't super enjoyable, but the rest of the video will be better. And I'll see you in the second round. Don't go anywhere. Moxfield.com is the easiest way to build a Magic deck online. They support over 30 formats, including Legacy and many other Eternal formats. There are so many options to view decks the way that you want, from text view to individual cards, mana value, and even card price. There's also light mode and dark mode. My personal favorite feature is card tags. This way you can sort cards by function. Moxfield supports collection tracking, Scryfall search, decklist feedback, and so much more. Follow me on Moxfield.com so you can stay updated on all of my decks. Match number 2, so you can actually see the board now, and now you'll also see that tripod arm in the middle. That's going to be there for the rest of the video. That's why I wanted to use the arm that bent over the table so you wouldn't have to see that. It would give us a little bit more playroom. Unfortunately, not an option. Here you'll see me taking my deck out of the deck box. I have those big silly arcade dice. A friend gave me a bunch of those years ago, one of my childhood best friends, and I've used them ever since. They're not necessarily the best dice in the world, especially for content, but they remind me of a childhood, so I use them. And I take the mini token pack out. I have my treasures ready. There's my D20 that I use to keep count of all the creatures in the graveyard. And now you can actually see things. So if you skipped round 1, I do not blame you. It was tough for me to narrate through. So you probably, if you're someone who watched it, thanks. I do appreciate you giving me more watch time because YouTube cares about that algorithm watch time. But it was tough to sit through personally for me. And now I'm shuffling up. We're facing Eric English, who's actually just on Brian Koval's Dimir Fairies list from the Pauper Championship the week before at MagicCon Chicago. Eric won the die roll. I don't even know if we've rolled yet, but I know for a fact that I've already lost the die roll. So I am on KMC Blue Hyper Phoenixes. Eric was actually on Dragon Shield Blues, and you can see that they're pretty similar color, but once I picked up Eric's deck to shuffle, I knew the difference immediately. Like just the feel of them was different. And here's me losing the odd even to Eric because that's what I asked for, odd even. And you'll see that the colors are pretty similar here, but the Dragon Shields, the backs feel a little different. They don't shuffle as well, in my opinion. Not trying to knock Eric's sleeves here, but I think the Hyper Phoenixes really are just better than Dragon Shields. So I shuffle, and I put Eric on a blue deck before we even sat down, just knowing the decks that Eric has played. I've faced Eric the last, gotta be 20 years, maybe 15 at the minimum. And Eric tends to like playing blue. So I put Eric on a blue deck. I didn't know which one for certain, but I figured it was a blue deck of sorts. And I think this is one of those times where I do fan my hand towards the camera. Well, I took a mulligan here, but I think I fan it towards the camera once I keep. That was like a Lotus Petal hand that didn't have a land in it. So I take a mulligan. Eric cuts my deck. Yep. And now I fan out 7 cards. I have to put 1 on the bottom. And I believe I put a second copy of Reaping the Graves on the bottom, if I remember correctly. But we'll see. Eric plays an Unglued Island, passes the turn. Vault of Whispers. Also, notice how my cards do not have a lot of glare on them. That's something I noticed looking back on the camera footage. I don't know if it's the seat I was in, or if it's just the fact that KMC Hyper Phoenix don't glare. I'm not sure. But just like scrolling through, I did notice that my cards tend to be pretty visible throughout the course of the videos. Land number 2 for an Augur of Bolas. Eric picks up a counter target spell, which confirmed my belief that Eric was just on, generic blue deck. I cycle an Imposing Vantasaur, grab my D20, and that's 1 creature in the graveyard. If you did not watch match number 1, I accidentally left the graveyard counter token from the Epic Storm mini token pack at home. I combined 2 different token packs so that way I'd have 40 black mana, and I accidentally left the graveyard one at home, so I just ended up using a D20, which is not something you have to tell your opponent. This is just for me personally. So a judge can't say you can't do that because it's not part of gameplay. Mana floating is known information for both opponents. Creatures in graveyard is not necessarily something that your opponent needs to know at all times. This is something I do for myself. So I end up cycling a Drannith Healer, a Street Wraith. I lose 2 life. I go to 17. And if you're wondering why there's not life totals up on the screen, I'm going to be honest with you. It is way too much work to manually add that stuff in all throughout the course of a video. and I don't want to manually do it every single time a life total changes, so I'm just not doing it. Eric Bajuka bogs me, which hurts quite a bit. And actually, I remember now, I don't have a Reaping the Graves in my hand because I would have brought it back if I did. So I end up getting bogged. I play land number 4. I remember feeling a little flooded here, being like, I have 11 lands in my deck and here's 4 of them. So we end up just trying to patiently wait until I can restock. I take 1 from an Augur of Volos. Eric is playing very conservatively. Like, I'm expecting a Ninja of the Deep Hours or something, but, like, I'll be honest, one just never comes. Like, Eric just beats down with the Augur. I play a Lotus Petal so that way I don't have to discard to hand size. You might be saying, why play it out? Well, it's either that or discard it. Like, I haven't done anything else this game besides play land, so I still have 7 cards in my hand. But what I need is more creatures in the graveyard. And discarding a Lotus Petal versus playing it out, like, you'd rather play it out every time. Land number 5. Eric attacks with the Augur of Bolas. Eric moves his graveyard there for a second, but nothing changes. Passes the turn. I do not cycle on the end step because I do not have creatures. I draw and pass. I wonder if I don't have 7 in hand. Or, okay, I know what I did. I played out the Lotus Petal because I wanted, if there was a window to Deadly Dispute, I wanted to Deadly Dispute the Lotus Petal. That's what it was. Another Bajuka Bog. Eric, instead of discarding a random card, plays it out, and on the end step I cycle a Horror of the Broken Lands. And at this point I knew that Eric was on the Brian Koval list with the double main deck Bajuka Bog and then 2 Dimir Aqueduct to pick them up. So I have 7 in my hand, or so I believe. And I was looking for a window to play Deadly Dispute. I never get one, so I end up discarding a Dark Ritual here. Take 1 from the Augur of Bolas and a Sneaky Snacker. And I believe at this point, I'm like, it's not getting much better for me. So I think now's when I end up playing a Deadly Dispute, sacrificing the Lotus Petal. And Eric does not counterspell it, so I end up drawing 2 and making a treasure. I cycle a Street Wraith, 2 creatures now in the graveyard. I untap, so I must not have drawn another creature. I try a Dark Ritual. Okay. Storm is 1. And I'm getting my token set up here. And it looks like the Dark Ritual resolves, so I'll add 3 black using my Epic Storm Mini Token Pack. Once again, you can go to theepicstorm.com/shop to grab one of those. And now a Deadly Dispute, sacrificing the Vault of Whispers. Draw 2, and then I'll make a treasure. There it is. I play a Lotus Petal, Storm 3. Those are my original Lotus Petals from the Epic Storm. I do have Japanese foil signed Lotus Petals now that have been altered to look like that Lotus Petal, but foil. The ones that are in my deck are ones that a friend got signed years ago at Gen Con. And then the altarist essentially etched out the foil. So the Lotus Petals in Cycle Storm are my original Lotus Petals from 2006, the Epic Storm. And now I play a Cabal Ritual, which is met by a Spell Stutter Sprite. And now there's 2 open mana. I play another Cabal Ritual. And Eric now thinks for a little bit, like, do I want to tap out here? And Bryant knows I have the counter spell. If Eric taps out here, there's not going to be a spot later to counter. So Eric is checking my graveyard and is deciding, do I want to go after the Cabal Ritual? And the answer is yes. So counter spell is played. And this is my window. I have the opportunity to try to win here. There's not many creatures in the graveyard. I use the 2 treasure tokens, and I'll end up making 5 black. And I knew that I had a small window here, and I had to take it. So that's what I'm doing. I end up cycling a Drannith Stinger that I drew off of, I believe, the Deadly Dispute or my draw step this turn. It was one of the 2. And now I cycle a Horror of the Broken Lands. This brings me up to 4 creatures in graveyard. I think I'm just like double checking the number right now. Yeah, that appears to be it. So it's on 3, but the number goes up to 4. And I'm not sure if I paid the cycling cost, so we're talking about that already. So I draw, cycle a Barrenmoor. So I paid the cost, now I draw. And I did have another Cabal Ritual in my hand the whole time. So, like, that was part of the reason I discarded a Dark Ritual to hand size earlier, was my hand was a bunch of Cabal Rituals. So rather than going -2 +5, I end up going +3 a lot. It just saves time. Like, you don't need to go -3 plus, or -2 plus 5. Just +3 is good enough. And now I play Reaping the Graves. The issue is that I'm essentially light on mana. So I need to cycle into like a Songs of the Damned or something. And I'm pretty sure I have a Songs in hand. But the problem is I only have 4 creatures. So I cycle Street Wraith, and then I draw Return the Horror, cycle it using a black. Creature count in graveyard stays the same. Cycle a Street Wraith. So I lose 2 more life, and now the counter will go up to 5 because I have 5 creatures in the graveyard. And I'm pretty sure, like fairly confident, that I do have a Songs of the Damned already in my hand, and here I play it. This might not look familiar to you. This is the Songs of the Damned from Ultimate Masters. It's the only Japanese foil printing. If you don't want to play a Japanese foil version, there is the one from Ice Age. Those are the only 2 printings. And now I'm cycling, and I need to find another Songs of the Damned. Like, that is, mana is the bottleneck. I've already gone through like 4 Cabal rituals, and we're cycling. And if my memory serves me correctly here, I end up drawing into Ardent Elementalist, but I just don't have enough to play it to get back the Songs of the Damned. Cycle Horror of the Broken Lands, up to 7 creatures in the graveyard. And I did find another Songs. Nice. Way to go, past Bryant. I believe in you. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7. So you'll see there, instead of going -1, I just added 6. Another Reaping the Graves. So mana is still the bottleneck here. And I'm pulling out the creatures. And the way that I do it is I leave them stacked on top of the graveyard, and then I just return them one at a time, because I'm resolving each copy separately. And you might be saying you can't organize your graveyard. Yes, you can. You are wrong. The only time that you can't is when there's a card that graveyard order matters. So Spinning Darkness, Scrabbling Claws, something like that. So those creatures in the top left of the screen are still in the graveyard. I just pull them out like this to show that those are what I'm targeting, and they're still in the graveyard. So I'm cycling. I'm digging for more mana here. Cycle, cycle, cycle. Now I cycle a Monstrous Carabid, paying costs, and I get my final draw. Do I spike it? Nope. Sorry, audience. I did not find the next Songs of the Damned. And I'm at a low enough life total from Street Wraith where we should just go to the next one, because I cycled Street Wraith a number of times there. For sideboarding for this matchup, I ended up bringing in Pyroblast and the 2 basic lands and Blood Celebrant. I ended up boarding out the 2 Rowan's Grim Search and 4 Lotus Petals. Or at least I believe that's what I did. If you want to actually know what I did, you can go to theepicstorm.com/shop and grab a sideboard guide. So here's the Pyroblast. You can actually see me sideboarding, which is nice. There's the 2 lands. And let's see what I do. Taking out Lotus Petals, Rowan's Grim Search. In my testing leading up to the event, there was also some leagues where I was trying cutting a Deadly Dispute or 2. I don't believe I did that this round, and then I ended up being like a little glutted on Deadly Disputes, and then wished that I had done like a 2-2 split, but that's a little hindsight biased. So now I'm counting my sideboard, making sure that everything lines up, that I boarded in the same number that I boarded out. I tend to always count my sideboard in between games. It's something that I've picked up from the Epic Storm. Just like being a Wish deck, you want to count your sideboard, make sure it's always 15. So I do it all the time now. Just doesn't matter what format that I'm playing, count your sideboard in between games. It's just good practice. Just because you don't want to submit, too many or too few cards. And here I might be making a last minute change, trying to figure out what exactly I'm doing. We are now shuffling up for game number 2. You see the camera shaking a little bit here. Like I mentioned, the tables are a plastic material. They're not wood, so there is a little bit of like give to it. So it's just a tripod with an iPhone on it. So there's a little bit of shaking. This isn't a professional setup. This is definitely like a backpack recording sort of situation. So if you don't like the shaking, I'm sorry, but that's what it be. You're going to have to deal with it or not watch. I present my deck to the opponent, and then I'm going to clean up my tokens a little bit. Here we go. Yeah, organize that play space, Bryant. Can't have a mess over there. What are you, a heathen? Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Cut the deck. All right, so I'm on the play for game number 2. laying out my 7 cards as I typically do. Beautiful KMC Blue Hyper Phoenixes. And an easy mulligan. I remember looking at it and just going like, this hand doesn't even make mana. Sending it back. Eric cuts my deck. And now we're going to lay out 7 again. And I have a spoiler alert for you. I don't know if I show the camera or not, but there's 0 cycling creatures in my hand. So the question is, do you want to go to 5 against Dimir Fairies with main deck Bazooka Bogs, or do you just say my deck will draw creatures? I ended up keeping it and saying like my deck, if I want to win this, I have to draw creatures here. So I play a tapped Baron Morin Pass. Signed by Heather Hudson. Beautiful card. Eric plays some sort of tap land here. I'm not sure what it is. It's probably a Contaminated Aquifer, if I had to guess. Island. And the Modern Age. And it is a Contaminated Aquifer. Eric announces that he's discarding a cast down in case I play a creature like into play. And then I ended up drawing that turn, or on the end step, into the Chitin Gravestalker, but I end up not being able to play it. Here I had the option of going Dark Ritual, play the Chitin Gravestalker, but I don't think that's actually like a good use of resources, so I decide not to. It is a way I, in theory, could have tried to win this game, but if it gets stuffed, you just burned 3 valuable cards. And there's a Bazooka Bog, 2 mana, or an Augur Bolas. Steel Sabotage. Eric tells me that it's for Ichor Wellspring, and I just don't say anything, even though there's no Ichor Wellsprings or Lotus Petals in my deck. So the only thing it can do is return an artifact land. Or a treasure token, I suppose. Dark Ritual. And I cycle the Chitin Gravestalker. I'm just trying to hit lands here. Like, it's either that or discard. So I have 1 black mana floating. I cycle a Drannith Healer looking for lands. I play another Baron Morin Pass. The Modern Age goes to the 3rd chapter, transforms into a 2/3 flying creature. Swing. I take 1. Eric tries to attack with the enchantment, but not allowed. And another copy of the Modern Age. Discards a Sneaky Snacker. Untap. I just pass the turn. Eric discards an Augur of Bolas, plays an island. Attacks for 3. Discards the Augur of Bolas to the 2nd chapter of the Modern Age, by the way. I update my die finally, and now I have 3 creatures in the graveyard, so we'll cycle the Horror of the Broken Lands. Now I cycle a Street Wraith, 4 creatures in the graveyard. Okay, so I found creatures now. So I do know that at this point my hand is double Pyroblast, but I don't have any red mana. And I can't help but think like, oh, if I had Lotus Petal instead of this Deadly Dispute, I could theoretically cast a Pyroblast. Then if I drew a red land, I would have double Pyroblast open, and I could create a window to win. But it's sort of just not what happens. And I end up playing out a Chitin Gravestalker, trying to see if I could eat a counter spell. Eric ends up cycling a Lorien Revealed after it resolves, so it does not counter it. Reshuffle. Eric draws for turn. The Modern Age will now flip into a creature. Swing. I take 2. Plays land number 5. Passes the turn. So I could Deadly Dispute the Chitin Gravestalker there. I end up not doing it because I think maybe there's a chance I can beat down for the win here, or lower Eric's life total enough where I need less resources to win. I cycle a Barrymore on my main phase. I pass the turn. Plays an island, attacks for 5. Tons of open blue mana. And at this point, I've sort of realized that I've lost. Like, I just don't have what I need to plow through 3 or 4 counter spells. So I believe I start the turn by attacking with the Chitin Gravestalker, putting Eric to 10. And you might think that this just doesn't matter. But the fact that, 1, it's a Deadly Dispute target. 2, 10 life is a lot less resources to win than 20. So the 5 damage does matter. Well, 10 damage over 2 turns. And I end up leaving back the Chitin Gravestalker, so maybe it's next turn that I attack. Okay, so I discarded a Pyroblast because I was glutted on them, and I needed red mana. On the end step, I cycle Street Wraith, and I'm at such a low life total. I want to say I'm at like literally 1, that I cannot Reaping the Graves back this Street Wraiths. Like, my life total is just too low here. I draw for turn, and then I attack with the Chitin Gravestalker. So now Eric is at 10. I play a Dark Ritual, Spellstutter Sprite. And at this point, I'm thinking I'm going to try to respond because if I Deadly Dispute, I can Pyroblast something. So I believe I now play a Songs of the Damned. I tap the Barrenmore. There's a Songs of the Damned. Signed by the artist, just like all my cards. Spell Pierce. And now I'm going to try another Songs of the Damned. And it's met by a Dispel. I lose the match, shake Eric's hand. Eric reveals that there was still a counterspell there. The issue is that I just never had red mana. And this was sort of an embarrassing draw for me. I faced Dimir Fairies, especially the build that Brian Koval played at the Pauper Championship, multiple times leading up to this event. And I feel like it's actually a pretty good matchup for me. But my draws, both games, just never really came together. I mulliganed twice, got stuck on creatures, double Bajuka Bog happened, didn't draw red mana. Like, just nothing really went my way. And I left this one thinking, like, oh man, like, this was not a loss I could afford. Usually, like, mono red ends up being a really bad matchup for me, and I wanted to save my losses for something like mono red. And losing to a matchup that I felt like was somewhat favorable, not what I really wanted. You'll see Eric's taking out some of those counter spells he sided in. After this match, we end up doing the KMC deck box giveaway for the Mox deck boxes. I'm going to plop an image right here. Hopefully it shows now of our two winners. Congratulations to them. And that is the round. So I am now 1-1 with 5 matches left to go. Looking to make playing your favorite combo deck much easier? Look no further than the Epic Storm Mini Token Combo Pack, which is available at theepicstorm.com/shop for $14.99. This combo token pack comes with 84 double-sided tokens. That includes our classic Storm and Mana tokens, as well as fan favorites such as Goblins, Squirrels, and Slime Time Live. But that's not all. We've expanded this token pack to cover a variety of formats with new tokens. Stop on by theepicstorm.com/shop and make an easy decision to elevate your combo game. Match number 3, my opponent is rolling for odd or even, and I believe, and I could be wrong, that this is the first match where I've won the die roll. I am presenting, and I actually knew what my opponent was playing. In between the last round and this round, I got my butt kicked so badly by Eric that I was able to walk around a little bit. And I saw my opponent was playing walls, and they knew that I knew that they were playing walls, and they were a little defeated from the get-go. Like, they were not super into the match. Like, they were kind of just like, let's get this over with. Like, they're like, my best friend plays Cycle Storm, and I know that it just crushes me. Like, can you just make this quick? So their heart was not in it, I will say that. And I believe both of my hands were pretty good. Like, I would have preferred to save hands of this quality for matchups where I didn't need it. And here I'm showcasing you my hand as a Deadly Dispute, Songs, Cabal Ritual, couple lands, few cyclers. Like, it's a solid hand. Shuffling their deck, and I think they end up keeping their 6. So I will say this, I own Japanese Foil Walls. It's a deck that I enjoy in Pauper. I don't upload it as much as I would like, just because, like, the last few times I've uploaded Walls, it has not done well, but it's a deck I do enjoy. My opponent sort of changed my view on Wall of Roots. So I think if next time I play Walls, I'm probably going to include Wall of Roots. It just looked so good both times that they played it. So here, they're playing Wall of Roots. And now they can play another 2-mana spell this turn by adding a counter and then tapping it to the Cerulean Caretaker. They didn't do it here, but I believe they do it in game number 2. So they play Aquarian Ranger, which means that they could, in theory, play another 2-mana spell, I believe. And here they drew a Tinderwall. I just cycle on the end step. I play another land. Sorry, there's a lot that I'm talking about here. I'm not actually keeping up that well with gameplay. So they tap for 2. They use a counter on Wall of Roots. And now they're going to tap the Cerulean Caretaker. No, they tap the Aquarian Ranger. Okay. And a Shield Wall Sentinel. So they search their deck. And at this point, I believe the words Axebane Guardian come out of my mouth. And the opponent's like, nah. And instead they grab a Drift of Phantasms. And in my head, I'm like, there's no way that's right. Unless they already have an Axebane Guardian. Like, I just don't see that being good enough. And I don't know if they do or not. I didn't see it in their hand this game. So I cut their deck. They play a land. They're fidgeting. And then on the end step, I cycle a Drannith Healer. and then a monstrous Carabid, 3 creatures in the graveyard. Thinking here for a little bit, I'm like, should I try to win? That's what's going through my head. And instead I end up playing out a Barrenmoor, and I believe I just passed the turn here. No, I'm going to Deadly Dispute Lotus Petal on the end step. Okay. Because I'm like, what are the odds they play a haste creature like the, I can't think of it right now. The 2 in a red wall that gives all your stuff haste into Axebane Guardian plus a win. And they play the Axebane Guardian. And in my head, I'm like, they can't kill me. So, Tuck, it's Tuck something. So that's what I'm thinking of. And on the end step, I play Rowan's Grim Search. So close to Deadly Dispute. A little bit better in this spot, in my opinion. I'm explaining how Rowan's Grim Search works because all of my cards are Japanese. So I'm explaining that it's like a super impulse where I look at the top 4, put any number, put up to 2 of them back on top, and then draw 2, lose 2. So I'm looking at the top 4. And do I end up keeping any of them? I do not know. Still looking. So it looks like I put 2 on top, and I get rid of a Deadly Dispute and a Drannith Healer. And now I lose 2 life. Whoop. There we go. Bryant, draw the cards. Come on. So now I lose 2, draw 2. I go to 18. And I believe one of those cards was a Cabal Ritual. I cycle a Street Wraith. I now have 5 creatures in the graveyard. I go to 16. And now a Cabal Ritual with Threshold. Thank you, Rowan's Grim Search. Getting out my Storm tokens that I did not get to use in match number 2. Just because, well, I guess I did get to use them. I just didn't win a game. But I used them in game number 1. So 5 black mana, 1 Storm. And now I play another Cabal Ritual plus 3 black mana. And now I play Rowan's Grim Search. Bargain away the other artifact land. I see another Cabal Ritual. I put 2 on top, 2 creatures to the graveyard. And now I will lose 2 down to 14 and then draw 2 cards. Look at me go. I love Rowan's Grim Search. Another Cabal Ritual. This is how we do. Plus 3 black mana up to 7. There we go. So clean and easy. Okay, Songs of the Damned. -1 black, plus 7. 3, 7. And now another Songs of the Damned. I'm just flexing at this point. Plus 7 more. There's the Storm. Does Songs of the Damned resolve? Reaping the Graves. Did I not? Oh, I'm doing the Songs of the Damned trick. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm putting songs on the stack, and then I'm reaping the graves. So I used it for Storm, and now I'm going to return creatures from my graveyard. So by the time that the Songs of the Damned resolves, my creature count will be higher than 7. That is the goal. So I have 7 right now in the graveyard. And I am now going to rearrange my graveyard to have the creatures on top. And when this resolves, it should make more than 7. I say should because I don't remember. I'm assuming it does. All right, so we're cycling. Here we go. Cycle, cycle, cycle. The first one did not use a black mana because it was a Street Wraith. And now we're just cycling. Boom. All right, here we go. Cycle, cycle. And we're cycling all day. All right, so Songs of the Damned is still on the stack. What am I doing here? I'm casting a Cabal Ritual. That seems smart. I'll add 3 black plus a Storm. Why am I adding 3 Storm? I don't know why I added 3 Storm. Did I add 3 Storm because I added 3 black? That's a mistake if so. I don't know if it matters, but it's wrong. So Songs is still on the stack. And now it's resolving. Okay, so I'm adding in a bunch of mana. It made 10. So by doing the cycling trick, it ended up making 3 more mana. And now I'm playing a... Yeah, I guess I just messed up. Because I can't explain why I added 2 extra Storm off the Cabal Ritual. I think it's because I added 3 for the black. Yeah, that's just a mistake on my part. I get back Songs of the Damned. And now I'm Deadly Disputing the Ardent Elementalist. Create a treasure. Draw 2. I drew a Cabal Ritual. And now I'm going to reveal my hand of triple songs, Reaping the Graves, Cabal Ritual, and a Stinger. And they just pick it up. So the Storm count never mattered. I'm glad for that reason. But that's definitely a technical issue on my part there. We're off to sideboarding. A little different looking back on it. Like, when you're watching it, it's easy to see the error. I don't remember making that error, like, at all. So one thing you'll notice is my opponent is sideboarding. I am not. You do not sideboard for walls. I don't even grab my deck box and pretend just because I'm too lazy. Like, I just didn't do it. I just shuffled up the same 60, and we're going to run it back for game number 2. My opponent apparently is boarding out Drift of Phantasms. A little surprised by that. I think there's some other cards that can come out before I take out consistency cards, but they say that they played the matchup a lot, so they probably know, but I would not board out Drift of Phantasms here. It looks like they're bringing in Mearshell Crab, Pulse of Marasa, Healer of the Glade. There's the Pulse of Marasas. Mearshell Crab. It looks like they took out 1 copy of Drift of Phantasms. That's not, like, crazy. I don't know if I do it, but I think, like, you just can't afford to take out your consistency pieces. So we're shuffling, we're cutting, all that good stuff. Alright, so I don't know if I narrated it, but my opponent did shuffle my deck. Sorry, they took so long to sideboard that I like started tabbing off onto other things. So they did shuffle and cut. I'm now looking at 7 cards. And I'm trying to show my hand here. I have a Dark Ritual, Double Barrenmoor, Deadly Dispute, Horror of the Broken Lands. They play a Cerulean Caretaker. Vault of Whispers, pass. I have a Street Wraith and a Cabal Ritual. And here's the Wall of Roots. They're going to add a counter for a Tinderwall. And this is where it looks really good to me. And then Healer of the Glade, obviously, I don't think Healer of the Glade is actually a card I would board in. Like, Cycle Storm can deal 120 plus damage. It's just, like, not a card I care about. But I think the Wall of Roots look particularly good in this spot. So I cycle a Horror of the Broken Lands, move my graveyard counter up to 2, cycle a Street Wraith up to 3. There we go. And I play a tapped Barrenmoor past the turn. They drew a Forest. They have Pulse of Marasa and a card that I can't tell what it is, which is another Cerulean Caretaker. So they have 1 card in hand, and it's a Pulse of Marasa. If it was a Drift of Phantasms, they would be in a better spot here, because they could actually play it next turn. I cycle an Imposing Vantasaur. The graveyard counter goes up to 4. Cycle a Drannith Healer. And I'm pretty sure this turn I was like, I could try to force a win, but because my opponent is so far away from winning, I don't need to. Like, I know that they have 1 card in hand, and they don't have a wall in play that taps for a bunch of mana. So I don't need to do that. They sacrificed the Tinderwall, and I can't figure out why. And I'm like, okay, why are you sacrificing Tinderwall? This doesn't make any sense. And they're just like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, I couldn't think of a reason why you would just throw away a Tinderwall. So I'm like, something's fishy about this. Like, I couldn't piece together what they had in their hand, but it did not make sense to me. I cycle a Horror of the Broken Lands, and now I cycle a Drannith Healer, cycle Barrenmoor, play a Lotus Petal, and pass. So I have a bunch of gas in my hand, but once again, my opponent isn't doing anything. I don't need to win if I don't need to. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why try to force a win and fizzle if they're not applying actual pressure that's meaningful here? They play another land, and now the Tinderwall. So I know that they have just nothing. So I believe that this is the turn where I win, just because I decide that, like, I have enough resources where even if I fizzle, I'm still likely to win. So I begin with a Dark Ritual. Storm count is 1. I'll add 3 black mana. There we go. 7 creatures in the graveyard. Cabal Ritual. So Storm is now 2. We're -2 +3. Okay. And now another Cabal Ritual. So I'll add 3 more. And now add a Storm. Another Cabal Ritual. Okay, so Storm is 4. Add 3 more black mana. Is now when I play the Rowan's Grim Surge. There we go. Bargain away the Vault of Whispers. So Storm goes up 1. I'm going to pay the costs. And now we'll look at the top. I find another Rowan's Grim Search. I'm going to bin all 4. I say, no, I don't need these. And I throw some scroll tokens at my opponent just for disrespect purposes. Look at the top. I draw 2, lose 2. Did I mark my life total already? I don't know. I play a Lotus Petal. Too busy running my mouth to see if I lost the life. Cycle a Drannith Healer. Cycle a Healer. -2 black for a Deadly Dispute. Bargain the Lotus Petal. Add a Storm. Make a Treasure. Draw 2. Cycle a Street Wraith. Mark the life. I believe my opponent marked my life, so I believe I did. And now another Deadly Dispute, sacrifice the treasure. It recreates itself. Plus a storm. Draw 2. Cycle a Street Wraith, I lose 2 more. This time my opponent didn't mark my life, but I definitely lost 2. And there's a Reaping the Graves, so I'm going to show them double songs, Elementalist Reaping. And another Deadly Dispute. And I think that they just pick it up at this point. Because they were like, show me what you got or whatever. But that ends up being the match. So we advanced to 2-1 over walls. And I know that you might be saying like, oh wow, arrogant, showing your hand. You can't show your hand online, but in paper you can just be like, hey, either I can go through this, or we can both go use the bathroom, grab food, whatever. And yeah, so that's what I did. I was like, I have double songs, Ardent Elementalist. So what you could do there is you can go songs, Ardent Elementalist, sacrifice the Ardent Elementalist to Deadly Dispute, which is not bargain, by the way, because bargain is only token, artifact, or enchantment. So you sacrifice the Elementalist, you then draw 2, you'll play the other songs, including the one you got back off the Elementalist, into Reaping the Graves. And then the Reaping the Graves, with the first one, you target the Elementalist, plus all the copies. So you'll eventually be able to use that Elementalist to get back that same Reaping the Graves later. So my opponent was deterministically dead, for certain, and they just decided to save themselves the life equity. And now you can see us deboarding and putting everything away. So that is the match, 2-1. 4 more matches left to go. If you're still watching, make sure to give this video a like, comment, and subscribe. While you're near the description, here's a reminder to use our affiliate links if you're going to make a purchase from Amazon, Card Hoarder, or TCG Player. Just above those affiliate links, you'll find our social channels. Make sure to join those to connect with us. Round number 4, we're facing Eric, who I have different Eric than before, obviously, but I have no idea what Eric is playing. So I'm going in completely in the blind this time, no idea what they're on, and I win the die roll, which I believe is my first die roll one of the day. I don't know if the video captures the die roll or not, but I remember winning the die roll and thinking like, oh, well, I needed it if I ever want to win this matchup. So I am now presenting my deck. Oh, we're about to do the die roll. So I did capture it on camera, odd or even, and it is even. I end up winning the die roll. I will be on the play. And I still don't know what Eric is playing. It ends up mattering, but we'll see in a second. So now I'm shuffling, cutting, and we're about to draw our initial hand. So 3, 7, 6, and then 7. Okay. Eric also draws 7. So I see a Vault of Whispers, Street Wraith. Eric is on mono red. So I have double Street Wraith, Vault of Whispers. I had to remind Eric to draw a card here. There we go. I have double Dark Ritual. I see 2 Street Wraiths. So I see the Great Furnace and I'm like, oh no. And a Voldarian Epicure, I go to 19. There's a Lotus Petal, looks like a Cabal Ritual. I cycle Street Wraith down to 17. And I'm thinking to myself, like, Street Wraith here is a blessing and a curse. Because you like Street Wraith, but you don't, especially in fast matchups, you want it. But the life loss can be very risky against mono red. So, like, you don't even board out Street Wraith because it's so pivotal in your wins. So, yes, you want it, but it could bite you in the butt. I cycle Street Wraith again, 4 creatures in the graveyard, looking for that second land here. Do I find it? I do not. Pass the turn. Eric draws a mountain, plays it, and the Goblin Tomb Raider, and another Goblin Tomb Raider. So I'm taking 5 now. Life total getting a little bit low. And if I had to guess, this is where we start to party. Street Wraith. Yeah. Life total even lower. 5 creatures in graveyard. So I've lost 6. Took 1 from the Voldaren Epicure. And then 5. So 13, I'm at 7. Right? I believe so. Dark Ritual, Dark Ritual. Currently at 7 life. Play a Cabal Ritual. Nice. Wow, I'm very proud of past Bryant for having all this mana and creatures in graveyard. Like, what a great job. Cabal Ritual. All right, making some more black mana here. Lotus Petal, increasing that storm count. Cycles a Monstrous Carabid. Draw a card. Cycles a Drannith Healer. Paid the cost, draw the card. 7 cards in graveyard. There's an 8. Maybe I missed one somewhere, I don't know. Horror of the Broken Lands, cycle. Great Furnace is the land for the turn. And Deadly Dispute gets rid of the Vault of Whispers. I have 1 card left in hand. Draw 2. Tap for a red. Go grab my red mana counter. I think I only packed 2 of them. For another Deadly Dispute. Pay the 2 black. Add the Storm. I'll grab the treasure token in just a moment. There we go. And now I will draw 2. There we go. Do I have it? What's in my hand, Bryant? You got to show us. Come on. 3 black here. Is this a Rowan's Grim Search? It is! Going down to 5. Paying 3 black mana. Bargain away. Lotus Petal? Yeah. Keep those treasure tokens on the battlefield. Alright, so we have the Storm, and now I am doing something here. Maybe counting creatures again just to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep, so creature count is correct. We're looking at the top 4. The Deadly Dispute, 2 artifact lands, and a Imposing Vantasaur. So now I'm going to draw 2, lose 2, going down to 5. There's a Reaping the Graves, and I find Songs of the Damned. Let's party. Party hardy. 10 black mana. I see Reaping the Graves. I cycle Monstrous Carabid. Draw. Cycle Horror of the Broken Lands up to 12 creatures in graveyard. Dark Ritual. Get 2 black mana back. Songs of the Damned. That was a good one. So we're now plus 12, 4, 8, and 12. Beautiful. And now I'll probably play the Reaping the Graves, add that Storm count, minus 3 black mana. Now we're going to count Storm. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And there's 12 creatures in my graveyard. What a coincidence. That's going to return everything. So I'm pulling out all of the creatures right now. Look at me go. So fast. So furious. 3 copies of Street Wraith. I'm at 5, so I can't cycle all of them. So if I had to guess, past Bryant is going to play out a healer here. Unless he thinks that he can just get the job done with double Stinger. Okay, and I do end up playing out a healer. So now every cycle will deal 1, and I will gain 1 off every cycle. So I cycle a Horror, I ping and I gain. This will bring me up to 6. 1 creature in the graveyard, 19. Cycle, 2 creatures in the graveyard, draw, show triple Street Wraith. So this is going to be minus 3 total life, but it's going to deal 3, no mana involved. Eric goes to 15. So I'll draw 3 here. 1, 2, 3. There's a Lotus Petal. Play the Lotus Petal. And now I could probably play another Stinger, and I do. Okay. I could play this deck in my sleep. Cycle Imposing Vantasaur. So now the cycles deal 2 and I gain 1. Cycle Monstrous Carabid. Brings Eric down to 11. 7 creatures in graveyard. Draw. So at this point I'm starting to count the creatures in my hand to see if I can shortcut. And just be like, hey, I have this many cyclers, this much mana kill you. Cabal Ritual. This makes 3 black. Okay, Cabal Ritual to the graveyard. Cycle of Barrenmore. Takes 2 down to 9. I don't know what my life total is anymore, but probably about 9. I did lose 3 life to the Street Wraith, so maybe not. And reveal 5 or 4 cycles, so this would put Eric to 1. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 black mana. So I gain 4, Eric takes 8, and I'll draw 4. Cycle a healer for lethal. So Eric shakes my hand, and we're off to game number 2. So I've gone back and forth on the way to sideboard here. It's either don't sideboard at all, or minus 2 Rowan's Grim Search for 2 Siege Smash. Because almost every red deck plays 3 to 4 Relic of Progenitus in the sideboard. The thing about it is, so you're thinking like, oh, well, if they have Relic of Progenitus, you definitely want Siege Smash. But they're so fast, and if they don't have the Relic, Siege Smash rots in your hand, and it's a card that isn't helping you win quickly. So there's a natural tension to bringing in Siege Smash. The downside is Rowan's Grim Search uses life in a super aggressive matchup. So For this event, I decided I was going to bring in the Siege Smashes, and every time I did, they were just worse than Rowan's Grim Search. There's never a spot where they were better, and I faced mono red twice. So that was a little disappointing, but I think it's either that or just accept that you're never going to beat a relic. And if your opponent mulligans the relic, you just like, you want to assume your opponent isn't going to do the thing that just wins them the match. And I decided that I didn't want to just be stone cold dead to Relic of Progenitus, so I wanted the Siege Smashes. It's a tough balance, because if your opponents do just mulligan, you can't win. So we're in the middle of sideboarding. I'm going through the motions, resetting life totals. We're both back at 20. Yay. All right, now I'm starting to shuffle. Shuffle, shuffle. So there's going to be clips in this video because I'm going to use my editing software to cut out some of the dead air where you don't see some of this stuff, but I just figured I'd mention, like, if you don't see us shuffling, we're shuffling. It's just, shuffling is one of the most boring parts about paper Magic. So it's just edited out through if I'm not narrating it, it gets cut. So that's how the software works. All right, I am now presenting my deck. Eric's taking a few more shuffles. It is now 4 p.m. according to my watch. There was a pretty long lunch break, if I'm being honest, and I mean, different people want different things. Like, I know that a lot of like casual players coming from Commander love lunch breaks in their tournaments. Being a competitive 60 card player, I am not a fan of lunch breaks. If you want to eat, do it in between rounds. The lunch break for this event was very long. So that is one of the few things that I respectfully disagreed on for the event. Like, the event was super well run. I had a great time. But I do think that the lunch break stuff like doesn't necessarily need to happen. But I might be in the minority. So as you could see, my hand was pretty good. It was like Street Wraith, Land, Cyclers, Lotus Petal, like a good hand. Eric keeps, plays Mountain, and a Clockwork Percussionist is coming down. There it is. I take 1 down to 19. Ouch. All right, I'm now at 19. Passes the turn. I play the Vault of Whispers. Looks like Voldaren Epicure was the draw. Land number 2. Looks like there's another mountain in Eric's hand. Epicure comes down. I'll go to 18. Blood Token. And then taps into Kuldotha Rebirth? Yeah, okay. So Rebirth happens, sacrificing the Blood Token. Eric will make 3 1/1 goblins. It looks confusing because Eric's sideboard is on the bottom of the screen. Eric's deck is on the top. So Eric did not look at his deck to grab a goblin token. I would just like to say that. It's Eric's sideboard. So I cycle the Horror of the Broken Lands on the end step. Cycle a Monstrous Carabid. Do I find the land? Barrenmoor, pass. So I'm at a pretty healthy life total here, but it's about to get a lot lower. Eric draws a Great Furnace for turn. Another Voldaren Epicure. I go to 16. And unfortunately, a Goblin Bushwhacker is about to come down. So all of Eric's creatures get +1/+0 in haste, and I'm about to take a lot. So looks like 14, putting me down to 2. And if my memory serves me correctly, I have double Street Wraith in hand. And I'm just not able to use them because of this Goblin Bushwhacker. So I'm going to end up at 2 life. And I probably could have won this game if not for the Goblin Bushwhacker. Like, I think my hand was good enough to try to win off those Street Wraiths. But just with the Bushwhacker coming down, my hand was not good enough. So I end up, like, I think I play a few more spells here. But I ultimately end up fizzling out. So there's the double Street Wraith. You see a Reaping the Graves, Lotus Petal. What am I even doing here? I remember thinking, like, this isn't even going to work. Like, why am I wasting my time? Sacrifice the Lotus Petal, cycle a healer. Or, I'm sorry, that's a Stinger. And I'm picking it up. Yep. Eric shakes my hand. We're off to game number 3. I don't remember if I had Siege Smash in my hand or not. Alright, game 3. I just presented my deck to Eric. Eric is now cutting. I'm going to shuffle Eric's deck. You should shuffle at competitive REL. Every once in a while, I'll get lazy and I'll cut, but I'll cut in like a different pattern each time. So I might cut towards the bottom, or I will cut in the middle and then cut towards the bottom. Basically, you should do it differently every time if you are someone who would prefer to cut rather than shuffle. That way your opponent can't recognize patterns and then cheat. So it depends on what you're looking for here. I take a mulligan. I do not have any lands in my hand. Eric is taking a minute to think about this mulligan. I remember this. And I remember like trying to get a read on Eric. I was like, either this is a 1-land hand that's very fast, or it's like a hand with relic that doesn't have mana. And I was like, that's my guess here. So I shuffle, I cut, present. Eric does a cut. All right, so let's see what the 6 has. 3 and 7. I see a Barrenmore, but I'm not sure what I'm bottoming here. Maybe it was Siege Smash. Play the Barrenmore, pass. Beautiful card. Great Furnace. And Clockwork Percussionist, I'll take 1. Great Furnace, pass the turn. I do know that I have a Siege Smash in my hand for this entire game. I remember it was in my opening hand. I don't know if you can see it here or not, but it was like just rotting in my hand the whole time. And I was just like, why am I playing this card? I wish this was a Rowan's Grim Search. I take 3 off of Chain Lightning. And Kuldotha Rebirth, sacrificing the Great Furnace. And then I take an attack from Clockwork Percussionist down to 18. End step cycle the Horror of the Broken Lands. And Monstrous Carabid. On tap, got out that graveyard counter dice. Cycle a Drannith Healer. Cycle Horror of the Broken Lands. 4 creatures in the graveyard now. Plays Vault of Whisper, pass the turn. So my hand, double Cabal Ritual. It looked like a Lotus Petal. Experimental Synthesizer. Okay. And Eric played the Synthesizer after playing a land, so the land that Eric reveals will just stay in exile. I don't have a creature to cycle on the end step. We untap. And I just pass the turn. Is that a grab the prize? No, that's a Reckless Lackey. Synthesizer, once again, reveals a land. Oh, no, it's a Rebirth. Okay. What's going on here? Taps the Great Furnace for the Reckless Lackey. And then plays the Kuldotha Rebirth. Sacrifices Great Furnace. Yep, Great Furnace to the graveyard. So 3 more Goblin tokens will enter. And now I'm going to take 5. Ouch. End step cycle Street Wraith. I'm sorry, I do not know my life total right now. Like I said, I'm not going to go back and edit life totals into this. It's just too much work. There's only so much time I can dedicate towards content. So I have 6 creatures in the graveyard. My hand has no action in it. Like, I'm thinking to myself, if I don't draw something here, I'm dead. Cycle Barrenmore. I believe my next draw is Monstrous Carabid. You see that Siege Smash rotting in my hand. So I think what I'm trying to figure out right now is if I'm supposed to play Cabal Ritual before I cycle. And I decide that I'm going to. Because it ends up keeping open a red mana. Because I have a Lotus Petal in my hand, and if I cycle first and then Cabal Ritual, I don't have red mana. So I play the Cabal Ritual with Threshold. Cycle Monstrous Carabid. And I believe I knock right here on top of my deck. And is it there? Is it? Spoiler alert, it's definitely a Reaping the Graves. I had nothing to do with my hand being all mana. And then I knocked, and it's Reaping the Graves. Alright, so I'm fidgeting with my lands. Play a Cabal Ritual. Storm is now 3. -2 +3. Songs of the Damned for 7 mana. +1 Storm. -3, 3, 1. Okay. I just pointed at only 4 Storm. Another Songs of the Damned. So minus +7, 3, 3, and then 1. I think I was nervous about if I wanted to burn another Songs right there. Reaping the Graves. So this is going to be for 6. It's going to return everything but 1. Paying the costs. And if my memory serves me correctly, I believe I end up playing out a healer here. I could be wrong. I apparently left Street Wraith, so maybe I don't. What am I doing past Bryant? I cycle the healer, so I think no, I'm playing it. Okay, so I decide to play out the healer. Alright, so I play it out. Cycle the Horror of the Broken Lands. I gain 1. Draw. Cycle another Horror of the Broken Lands. Pay the cost. Gain 1 life. Draw. Paying the costs. Cycle the Carabid. Cycle another Monstrous Carabid. Paying the costs. Draw. Cabal Ritual. -2 +3. My token's falling over a little bit here. Gotta clean those up. Cycle a Stinger. Draw. I think that's another Stinger I cycle. I can't really tell. Draw off that. Deadly Dispute. Plus a Storm. Create a treasure. Bryant, you gotta bargain something. I guess I forgot to sacrifice a land there. My apologies. I should have sacrificed a land there. Plays out a Stinger. Cycles the Horror of the Broken Lands. Yeah, I definitely did not sacrifice to that Deadly Dispute. Not a great look, but I made a mistake. It happens. Songs of the Damned. So it looks like my count is 9. I'm counting it right now. 3, 6, 9 mana. Reaping the Graves. So I'm paying the cost. There we go. So now every cycle deals 1 and gains 1. Getting back some Stingers, Monstrous Carabid, Horror of the Broken Lands, and the Street Wraith. I'm going to use the Treasure, play out a Stinger. Apparently I'm picking up all my black mana here. Maybe I just need to organize it and accidentally throw it at myself. 6, 10 black mana total. So I think I'm trying to count the number of cyclers I have to see if I can just shortcut this. So I see at least 6 creatures I'm cycling here. From what I remember, the actual number was 7, but one might be off screen. Yeah, and then I moved the die up to 7. So here you'll see I paid 7 black. So now I'm going to draw 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Cycle a few Street Wraiths. I draw a Lotus Petal and a land. I play the Petal. Cycle a Monstrous Carabid. I mean, this should be lethal. And there they go. So thankfully, the Deadly Dispute non-sacrifice did not matter. I apologize. I don't even remember not sacrificing, but in here I just showed my opponent the Siege Smash. I was probably complaining about how I almost lost with it in my hand. But that was the match. I luckily beat a not-so-great matchup. They didn't have Relic either game, and they had very explosive draws, but I was able to get a little bit lucky when I needed to. Tap the top of the deck, rip a Reaping the Graves, and get the match win. So I am currently 3-1. Want early access to articles at theepicstorm.com? Become a member of our Patreon to get articles 7 days early, on top of other sweet benefits, and help us pay our website team. You can sign up at patreon.com/theepicstorm. For round number 5, we are facing Adam White, who's someone I've known for quite a while. Adam has his own store up in Oswego, New York, Misfit Games. We win. I believe I win the die roll. 7 cards out here. And let's play some Cycle Storm Magic. Adam is on Affinity. Great Furnace passes the turn. Vault of Whispers into Blood Fountain. Legally cast this time. And I will cycle a Monstrous Carabid. Untap, we draw. Cycle a Drannith Stinger. 2 creatures in the graveyard. Cycle a Street Wraith. Can we find the land? Barrenmoor, pass the turn. Great Furnace. A Refurbished Familiar. And Adam's taunting me here and goes, I dare you to discard Reaping the Graves. And to show Adam that I have all these, that's exactly what I do. Reaping the Graves to the graveyard. And Adam at this point is like, oh, this isn't good. I'm using better language than Adam did, but yeah. So now I'm tapping the Barrenmoor. I cycle the Horror of the Broken Lands. Cycle Monstrous Carabid, 5 creatures in the graveyard. I have not played a land yet. Cycle Street Wraith, 6 creatures in the graveyard. Draw. Another Street Wraith, 7 creatures in the graveyard. Are we going to party? Great Furnace. Cycles Stinger, 8 creatures in the graveyard. Draw. I've played my land. Lotus Petal. Storm 1. Getting out the tokens, never a good sign for you. Just throwing that out there. Wow, what beautiful tokens. I wonder where you can get those. Would it be theepicstorm.com/shop? I have no clue. Alright, so now we play a Songs of the Damned for 8 black. Boom. From 2. 4 and 8. Beautiful. I now use 1 black mana, and I cycle, draw, cycle an Opposing Vantasaur, okay. 10 creatures in the graveyard. Deadly Dispute, sacrifice Great Furnace using 2 black. I'll create a treasure, plus a storm, draw, cycle a Stinger, down to 3 black mana. Dark Ritual, okay. Building up that storm count, very important. There we go, add that storm counter there. Reaping the Graves. Storm is 5. So I probably want Street Wraiths if I had to take a wild guess. And the nice thing about having a bunch of Street Wraiths is it allows you to win off of lower resources just because you're not paying mana. So that is why even against mono red, we like having Street Wraith in our hand. So I'm going to return the Street Wraiths first, and then I will pick up and cycle. So we pay 2 life, we cycle, draw, cast a Cabal Ritual. Yeah, there we go. Storm is now 6. Draw, Dark Ritual. I must have picked up one of the Street Wraiths. Yeah, I did. Because there's 3 Street Wraiths. I just missed it because I was tipsy talking about Cabal Ritual. Okay. Sometimes that happens. I run my mouth and then I lose track of where I'm at. Cycle Monstrous Carabid. And now the Horror of the Broken Lands. Alright, Horror of the Broken Lands to the graveyard. Play out a Lotus Petal. Add a Storm. What are we doing? Rowan's Grim Search. Bargain away the Great Furnace. Add a Storm. And now I'm going to look at the top 4. Looks like I see a Cabal Ritual there. I don't know what the other ones are. I put 2 on top. Dark Ritual and Rowan's Grim Search to the graveyard. Okay. Draw 2. Cabal Ritual. Gotta get that mana back. And I know that I'm low on life total here, and I'm thinking about that while I'm comboing off. Because Adam... I must have just played a Songs of the Damned or something. No? Maybe it was double Cabal Ritual? It was probably double Cabal Ritual. And I am aware that I'm low on life because, like, I realized once I got down to, like, 6 that Adam jumped up a little bit. Like, oh, maybe this Galvanic Blast in my hand could actually win this. And I think to myself, like, okay, no more Street Wraiths. At least not unless I play out a Drannith Healer first. So I'm returning a bunch of creatures from my graveyard. There they all go. Beautiful. So we're returning a lot of creatures here. And I don't see any Drannith Healers. So what are we doing? I'm organizing it, but I'm not sure what exactly the goal is. Alright, so we're going to return Monstrous Carabid, cycle it, paying a black, draw a card. Return Monstrous Carabid, pay a black, draw a card. Return Monstrous Carabid, pay a black, draw a card. Running out of mana here. Return Imposing Vantasaur, pay a black, draw a card. Same thing with Horror of the Broken Lands here. So I am on fumes at this point. So I'm down to my last mana here. What is it? What is it, Bryant? Songs of the Damned! There we go. So this is going to make 11 black mana. And I'm going to double count it right now. Got a little bit lucky there. Add the Storm, and now we make 11 black. At this point, Adam's rolling his eyes a little bit, being like, of course you hit the Songs of the Damned. Like, only you, down to your last mana, hit the songs. So that's 10 and 11 black. Okay. The problem is that I've used a bunch of Lotus Petals and Deadly Disputes already. So now we're picking up the Street Wraith. We're continuing to cycle. Cycle another Stinger. I guess that was the card I drew before the Stinger. Okay. And I'm continuing to draw another Songs of the Damned. Looks like 13 is the number right now. So a cool trick that I'm about to do is I'm going to actually hardcast Street Wraith and then use the Street Wraith as something I can bargain. So I believe at this point I say I'm going to just resolve these and pick up these 3 Street Wraiths, and I do. And now we're going to play a Street Wraith, or at least from memory, that's what I do. And that is in fact what happens. So I pay 5 black mana, and now I'm going to pay 2 mana for a Deadly Dispute, sacrificing the Street Wraith. 7 mana to Deadly Dispute. That's how good that card is. I would pay 7 mana for it. We get to create a treasure. And apparently I play a Dark Ritual here. Sweet. I guess I'm counting my creatures again. That's what I'm doing, picking up my graveyard. Galvanic Blast still in Adam's hand. 11 is the number, because I have 2 Street Wraiths in my hand. Ardent Elementalist for the with the treasure. I think I'm picking up a Songs of the Damned here, and then we're going to Deadly Dispute the Elementalist. So I pick up the songs, Deadly Dispute the Ardent Elementalist. So it's back up to 12 creatures in the graveyard. Make that treasure. Draw 2. I pay a black, so I'm guessing I'm cycling here. Pay another black. Cycle. And I know that I'm cycling creatures because the graveyard counter is going up. Cycle a Street Wraith. Or no, I'm hardcasting a Street Wraith. That's what it is. Okay, so I'm guessing I'm Deadly Disputing again just for the colored mana so I can speed this along. So I paid 14 mana for 2 Deadly Disputes. That's just good magic. And now I'm going to play double Songs of the Damned into Reaping the Graves with 2 open red mana. And Adam's seen enough. Alright, so we're going to game number 2. Hi-oh. Turn 3. Getting a look at Adam's sideboard. See a Breath Weapon, a couple cast downs. Looks like no additional Nile Spellbombs other than the ones in the main deck. Yeah, I'm not seeing any additional Nile Spellbombs. There's a Cart Clan Shaman. A bunch of blasts, but I don't see any additional Nile Spellbombs. So there's probably the 2 in the main deck, and then they're calling it good. I don't even know if Adam's supposed to sideboard here. Like, none of those cards seem amazing. Meanwhile, I'm bringing in 3 copies of Siege Smash. It looks like I'm wavering back and forth on what to cut here, and I believe I've made my final cuts. I think it's 2 Rowan's Grim Search and a Cabal Ritual. Or 3 copies of Siege Smash. Putting them in the deck box where they belong. Adam has presented his deck. I'm currently still shuffling. And now we're presenting. Okay, so shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Looks like Adam just cuts my deck, but I tend to shuffle. Alright, so we're on the draw. 7 cards for me, and 7 cards for Adam. Looks like no lands on Adam's side, or is that a seat? Yeah, it's a seat of the Synod. So there was 1 land there, but it was off color. I see a Vault of Whispers, and I think a Lotus Petal in my hand. Shuffling. Adam is going to 6 cards now. 7 cards, and then Adam will bottom 1 if he decides to keep this hand. See a Vault of Whispers, Cart Clan Shaman, Deadly Dispute, and a bunch of lands. So it looks like a Vault of Whispers is going on the bottom. Or is it not a Deadly Dispute, it's a Reckoner's Bargain? Okay. So Great Furnace went on the bottom. Great Furnace into Cart Clan Shaman. I play a Japanese foil Vault of Whispers that's also signed. Pass the turn. Ugh. The not Japanese foil signed Vault of Whispers? Disgusting. Adam passes. I take 1. I cycle on the end step. Draw. Untap. Draw. Cycle a Barrenmore. And play a Barrenmore. Pass the turn. Deadly Dispute. Sacrifice the Cart Clan Shaman. Looks like I flashed the camera in my hand there a little bit. I see Cabal Ritual, Double Dark Ritual. And is that a Reaping the Graves? I can't tell. Ichor Wellspring for Adam. Horror of the Broken Lands cycle. 3 creatures, or is that 2? It's 2 creatures now in the graveyard. Monstrous Carabid, 3 creatures. Lotus Petal pass. Deadly Dispute, sacrificing Ichor Wellspring. So 3 cards off the top for Adam. Land, which is a Seat of the Synod. Thoughtcast for 1 blue. 1, 2. Digging for that Nile Spellbomb. 1 black mana here. Blood Fountain. Creates a blood token. Mirror Enforcer. So I do see a couple copies of Reckoner's Bargain and a Galvanic Blast. Alright, so this looks like a turn where maybe I want to consider going for it. We'll see what happens. Dark Ritual. 3 black mana, Storm 1. Another Dark Ritual, Storm 2, plus 2 black mana. Looks like 6 cards in the graveyard. Deadly Dispute, that will bring me up to Threshold, paying 2 black. Create a treasure. Storm is now 3, draw 1, 2. I wish my graveyard was angled, or the camera was angled up just a little bit higher. Just so that way I could get my graveyard in it. It's not something I thought about when I was recording, but it's something that I'm noticing now. I mean, I noticed it in previous rounds. I mean, I'm just calling it out now. But I wish that I either would have moved my deck in just a little bit more or had the camera angled up just a hair. We're just casting the spells. Cycle a Stinger. Draw. I think I'm counting creatures in my graveyard here, making sure that it's accurate. The number is 6. Draw off the Stinger. Tap the Barrenmore for a black and then use a black to Deadly Dispute, sacrificing the treasure, remake the treasure, plus a Storm. Now I'll draw 2. And I think I actually end up paying black here again because I can't remember if I paid the cost. So I think I actually end up paying the cost twice. Or I don't remember if I paid a black. So I actually spent an extra black mana there. And now I'll cycle the Horror of the Broken Lands. So I did pay the cost there twice. So I'm interested to see if that matters. Up to 8. Songs of the Damned. Plus, and then it resolves. 4, 6, 7, 8. Cycle a Stinger. Play Great Furnace as my land for the turn. Tap it. Deadly Dispute. paying a black and the Great Furnace, create a treasure, plus Storm, draw 2, plays a Lotus Petal, up to 10 creatures now in the graveyard, cycled, Reaping the Graves. So I have 3 black mana and 4 treasures available. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 Storm. So I have to leave 1 creature in the graveyard. Okay. So it looks like I'm leaving a Monstrous Carabid. And I put Street Wraith on top because that's what I'm going to resolve first. So I'm picking up Street Wraith and then cycling. And my graveyard is completely out of frame here, which isn't great. Bummer. Cycles a Monstrous Carabid. Cycle Horror of the Broken Lands. Cycle Horror of the Broken Lands. I'm digging for Songs of the Damned here. Cycle Horror of the Broken Lands. Songs of the Damned! Right on time, baby. Right on time. 5, 10, 11 black mana. I pick up a Monstrous Carabid, start cycling again. I added a Storm count for some reason. Maybe I didn't add in one for songs, I'm not sure. Pay a black, cycle the Vantasaur, pay a black. Cycle Stinger. Cycle Stinger. Cycle Healer. I'm counting my graveyard now. Did I draw another Songs of the Damned? Paying a black. I'm cycling, okay. Paying another black, cycle. Another cycle, down to 4 black mana. Down to 3 black mana, cycle again. 13 creatures in graveyard. I apparently drew a Dark Ritual. Okay. I went straight from the top of my deck to the graveyard. Songs of the Damned. So this is going to make 13 black mana. There's 4, 8. Oh no, that was 5. So that's 9. Okay, plus 4. Maybe, hold on. That looks like it might be 1 too many. Unless I counted one of those wrong. I don't know. Ardent Elementalist. I'm guessing that past Bryant did it correctly and that I'm just like not... I don't have them in my hand, so it's tough to say, but it looks like it might have been 1 too many. Ardent Elementalist for... I don't know if it's picking up Reaping the Graves here. It probably is. That or it grabbed another Songs of the Damned. I'm not sure. So I'm now playing Reaping the Graves, getting everything back. So I'm guessing the Elementalist got Reaping the Graves here. And now I'm playing a Stinger. And I figure that Adam has a removal spell in hand. And he just concedes. Okay, so at one point this turn I overspent for a spell. And at another point I possibly overpaid, which isn't great. And I reveal Siege Smash in the top of my hand. And we're deboarding, so I'm now 4-1, and the next round is a win and in. So that's exciting. Yeah, let's go see that. The best Legacy podcast? That would be Eternal Glory featuring myself, Bryant Cook, alongside Brian Koval and Phil Gallagher. We're available on all major podcast platforms and YouTube. All right, time for the win and in round. Round number 6. The die roll, and I believe I win this one. We'll see. All right, so shuffling up. We have not resolved mulligans yet. It's been a few rounds, so I'm going to reiterate this. You'll see the code above me, Storm10 for 10% off at kmcsleeves.com. You know, my promo code. That way they know that you're supporting KMC and that you watch my content. So that's one way you can do it. I also have some overflow sleeves over at my shop, but not, I mean, it's just KMC, Hyper Phoenix Blues, and some Hard Perfects right now. So if you want to get those from me, they're a little bit cheaper because my 10% is already built into the website. Or if you're a Stormtrooper tier or above, you can use your promo code and get even more off. So definitely go do that if you're supporting the channel at a higher tier. All right, so my opponents cut my deck. I am now shuffling and cutting theirs. Their sleeves are pretty dirty. Like you can see some gunk on those. All right, so I'm drawing my hand. And I know what my opponent's on because they faced Jacob earlier, Kelly Kai's, and we were sitting next to each other. So throughout the entire event, Jacob and I had fixed seating, and I saw that this person was on mono red. They have a turn 1 Goblin Tomb Raider. I have the Baron Moor. We untap. Cycle the Horror of the Broken Lands. Draw a card. Play another Baron Moor and pass. My opponent's flicking their cards. If my memory serves me correctly here, they play an Experimental Synthesizer. They do. And they flip the land. They're really good at that, by the way. That's what I learned. So they reveal the land, and now they're tapping it for a Kuldotha Rebirth, which exiles a Lightning Bolt. They now get 3 Goblin tokens, and they swing. So I'll take 2, untap, draw. And they still have an artifact because they have a Great Furnace on the table. Cycle the Imposing Vantasaur. Play Vault of Whispers, pass the turn. They still have 2 mana here. They draw. They attack for 5. Ouch. Land for turn. Another Kuldotha Rebirth. So if they had a Goblin Bushwhacker, I would have been dead. But fortunately, they didn't. 2 mana here. Or 2 copies of Chain Lightning. Sure. I cycle Street Wraith. I don't know what my life total is, but I imagine it's more than 0. So I cycle the Street Wraith, I draw. Cycle Street Wraith. Well, I have to be pretty low now. So they hit me for 2, plus the 2 Street Wraiths. So that's 6. They attack for 5, that's 11. Double Chain Lightning. So I'd be at 3 right now. Cycle the Monstrous Carabid. So I believe my life total is currently 3. If they had a Fire Blast, I could be dead, but I think I decided that I couldn't afford to try to beat it. We Deadly Dispute, sacrifice the Vault of Whispers, create a treasure, draw, 1, 2. Play Great Furnace as my land for the turn. They were on the draw and they had 3 lands. They sacrificed 1, 2 Kuldotha Rebirth. I was in the play, so that is my 4th land drop. 6 creatures in the graveyard. I play Songs of the Damned. So Storm is 2, make 6 black mana, 3, and 6. Tap for a red, and then what am I doing here? I think I'm going to cast a Deadly Dispute. And that's exactly what happens. I pay with 2 black, sacrifice the Great Furnace, make a treasure, add a storm, and now we draw 1, 2. My opponent's pointing at the storm count. I use a treasure and a black for a Drannith Healer. Okay. So I must think that I need more storm, and that mana is not a bottleneck. Because that's the only way this makes sense to me. Obviously, my life total's low, too. Cycle a Stinger. I'll gain 1 off Healer, so this will put me up to 4 life. Draw off the cycle. Cast a Cabal Ritual, so -2, +3. Add a Storm. Cycle a Barrenmore, so I'll gain a life. This should bring me up to 5. Draw. Cycle Monstrous Carabid. I'm now up to 6 life. I have Dark Ritual. I think I see a Rowan's Grim Search. Dark Ritual. So I had 3 black. Add a Storm. And now is it time for Rowan's Grim Search? It looks like it is. I'm going to bargain away the treasure token here. I'll lose 2 life. I'm explaining what the card does to my opponent right now. You can't see it, but throughout this entire game, my opponent was just like checked out and looking at their phone. So I see a Cabal Ritual, a couple Cyclers. I put the Cabal Ritual on top and then the 2 Cyclers to the graveyard. And now I put the Rowans to the graveyard. I'm marking my life total. So you'll notice I don't draw from Rowans here. And all of a sudden I cast Songs of the Damned. And there's about to be a judge call. So I get out my mana because I realize that after I'm like about to cast a couple spells. And then I'm about to play Ardent Elementalist, and that's when I realize I never drew off of the Rowans. So I play the Ardent Elementalist, I pay costs, and I begin to look at my graveyard, and that's when I realize that I never drew. So I'm about to call a judge. And I just picked up the Rowan's Grim Search, I'm explaining it to my opponent, my hand is in the air, calling the judge over. So now the judge is at the table, we're explaining what has happened. I've paid the cost for Rowans, I've paid the life, I cast Songs of the Damned, I played the Ardent Elementalist. My opponent is pointing at my cards being like, well, he's already cast another spell, he shouldn't get to do this. The rules of Magic are a little weird, like, if I've already paid the cost for something, it implies that it's happened, but if you go too far, it can change. So we're going through this now. The judge is asking me how far we've gone into resolving Ardent Elementalist. Like, have I returned a card yet? And the answer is no. So my opponent is now trying to say that I've already cast another spell I shouldn't get to draw. And we're going a little bit back and forth there. The judge is asking the opponent if they've said that my Ardent Elementalist is resolved or not, and that sort of thing. We're pointing at the cards going back and forth. So the judge is now looking up the ruling, and in the middle of that ruling, the opponent starts telling the judge how boring my deck is and how I don't deserve to draw the cards because it's so boring, which has nothing to do with the actual judge issue that we're having right now. And they're just like, he's taking all the actions, he's not doing anything, like, this is so boring. And honestly, I think it's pretty disrespectful. I get it, you like casting Lightning Bolt, nothing against you. Some people, that is all they want to do, and props to them. I like playing combo decks, and I think just like, we're in the middle of a judge call, and now you're attacking my deck, being like, oh, it's boring, blah, blah, blah. Like, keep those comments to yourself. It's just super rude. So we're in the middle of resolving this, and eventually the judge decides that we're going to rewind. And I'm going to undo the cost for Ardent Elementalist, and then I'm going to draw 2. I have to name the top card of my deck, which is Cabal Ritual, and then I will draw Cabal Ritual and a single unknown card. So the judge is telling me to put the mana back in my mana pool, so that's what I just did. The Ardent Elementalist is in my hand. I am now about to draw 2 from the Rowans. I've already paid the life. Alright, so there you see the 2 cards going to my hand. So I draw the 2 cards, and I'm going to cycle a Horror of the Broken Lands. I gain 1. So I think I was at 5 or 6, and then I lost 2 plus 1. So I'm at like 4 or 5. I have a Cabal Ritual in my hand. I play the Ardent Elementalist, and I believe I'm picking up a Deadly Dispute here. Getting another Rowan's Grim Search doesn't work because Bargain cannot sacrifice creatures. So I'm grabbing a Deadly Dispute, and I'm going to pay 2 black mana here, sacrifice the Ardent Elementalist, and I'll create a new treasure, and then I'll draw 2, plus a Storm. 1, 2. We cycle a Horror of the Broken Lands. Draw. We've seen a lot of cards so far, but you know what we haven't seen? Reaping the Graves. And here's me picking up my deck. So you'll notice how big that stack of cards was. I start looking at the top couple cards. There's no Reaping the Graves. I look at a couple more, and then I just pick it up. So I'm curious where they all are. I'm not sure if you're going to get to see it on camera. All 4 Reaping the Graves are in the bottom 11 cards of my deck. I was sitting with like 2 Songs of the Damned in my hand, and I just could not find a Reaping the Graves. So I hit my natural fail rate here, which is all of the important cards being on the bottom of my library. This is the downside of not playing something like Mystical Teachings. And I almost added in Mystical Teachings Wednesday night, which was the last night that I had to prepare for this event. And then I decided to not make a last minute change to my deck on limited testing. So when I was testing for this event, Alex McKinley of the Epic Storm team was in a lot of Discord calls with me. And I'd say most of the complaints were, oh, I just missed 5-0 in this league, but there was one game where I saw 30-something cards and never hit a Songs of the Damned. Like, those sort of complaints were always the big issue. Like, oh, I lost this match because I couldn't find Reaping the Graves or whatever. But I had a lot of 4-1s. I had 3 or 4 5-0s too. And just that natural fail rate comes up. And I almost added in the Mystical Teachings and I didn't. So now we're going to the sideboard. I'm going to board out the Rowan's Grim Search for the 2 copies of Siege Smash. Alright, we are now shuffling up for game number 2. I've moved some of my tokens to be a little bit cleaner. And we'll see what happens. My opponent just presented their deck. I'm still shuffling. Alright, so we'll see how this goes. So this was my first time ever recording a full event that I'm publishing to YouTube. I think there's a couple things that I've learned about recording that I will change for next time. So I'm currently on 1x zoom. I might try 0.5 zoom and get like a deeper view. I'm not sure if that's something I'd like, but I want to at least try it. There's just a couple things, like I wish that the decks were in view. I wish that the graveyards were in view. Some stuff like that. And I think I'm going to try that for the next time. Like, this is a learning process. Like, this is the first time I've uploaded anything like this. I did record SEG Baltimore right after Modern Horizons 3 came out, and I ended up not uploading it because, like, I think over the course of like 3 events that weekend, I won 2 matches. Like, it was just like not a good weekend for me. So I ended up not uploading any of that. But I also recorded those. So, you know, I will get better as I do this, but this is really my first time doing it. I've told myself that if I ever start attending local events again, I would start doing it more often. But the reality is, like, I have a kid and all of my other responsibilities like work and my home and everything else. Like, I just don't have time to go to locals anymore. I play out a Lotus Petal here. So I think that means that I want to Deadly Dispute. They draw another land. I can't tell what that card all the way on the bottom is because of the glare. Kuldotha Rebirth. It must be like a blood token. It is a blood token. Alright, so there's 3 goblins and now a goblin bushwhacker. So this is a lot of damage coming in. So they swing. I'm taking a lot here. End step, Deadly Dispute, sacrifice the Lotus Petal. Create a treasure, draw 1, draw 2. Cycle a Street Wraith. I've got to be like at like 1 life here. I don't know what my exact life total is, but it's got to be pretty low. So I draw off the Street Wraith, cycle a Monstrous Carabid. Up to 3 creatures now in the graveyard. Draw, untap. So the problem this game is the opposite problem of last game, where this game I've seen quite a number of cards, but I only find 3 or 4 creatures. So opposite problems, just getting different ends of the variant spectrum in a crucial match. Like mono red is just so fast, and I'm in a matchup where I can't afford to stumble. In both games I stumbled. So here we're playing a Deadly Dispute. I draw 2, play a Lotus Petal. I'm apparently using the Lotus Petal for a Dark Ritual. Storm is now 3. Still only 3 creatures in the graveyard. One of them is a Street Wraith, and I don't think I have enough life to cycle it. Cabal Ritual. Storm is 4. So now we're going to add 3 black. And once again, my opponent's like completely checked out. Like they're on their phone. They're not even like paying attention. Which, you know, they can do whatever they want, but like I'm trying to keep honest here. I play another copy of Cabal Ritual, Reaping the Graves. And like I said, I only had 3 creatures. So like this is a super anemic Reaping the Graves here. And when I cast Reaping the Graves, they do perk their head up and they're like, what's going on? I'm like, you didn't see it game 1. I am returning creatures equal to the number of storm. I have 6 storms, so I could target each creature twice. And they're like, oh, wait, you could return each creature twice? It's like, no, I don't get to do that, but I'm targeting each one twice. So like if you had a counter spell, there'd be another copy of it on the stack. So I explained that, and now I'm cycling. I think I don't have enough life to cycle the Street Wraith if my memory serves me, but we'll see. Apparently I do. Okay. Cycle the Monstrous Carabid. Now I have 4 creatures in the graveyard. I see double Songs of the Damned, and that's the match. So my deck kind of just falls apart in my win-in. They reveal a Relic of Progenitus that they chose not to play, which also would have been very good. Although I did have a Siege Smash in my hand. I know that for a fact. I had Siege Smash. So it just didn't work, and we end up losing the win-in. So after the match, I end up looking at the tiebreakers, and what ends up happening is there's an unintentional draw this round where there's a very, very small chance that I get in. And what ends up happening is next round, I need the pair up to lose. I need the 2 X11s to draw. And then I need to win. And then I need Jacob, aka Kalikai's, to lose. And that almost happens. Almost. But we'll see in match number 5 what actually happens. With Card Hoarder, renting your favorite combo deck has never been easier. There isn't a more affordable solution for Magic Online. Want to play the deck in this video? Check out the pinned comment below to easily rent the deck from Card Hoarder. Did you know you can rent the Epic Storm from Card Hoarder for as little as 7 tickets a week? Round number 7. At the end of the last round, I said round number 5. Obviously, I meant round 7. We're doing the die roll. I believe I win it. We'll see. But I also know what my opponent's playing. They're on Elves. They were 4-0 to start out the event and then lost back-to-back win-in-ends. They have insane tiebreakers. They're like above 70. So if they win this, they will be the X2 that makes it, if any X2 makes it, that is. So they're really hoping to win this. All right, we're presenting decks, doing the old shuffle cut shenanigans, all that good stuff. And my opponent knows that they have an uphill battle. Elves versus Cycle Storm. Cycle Storm is incredibly favored. So we'll see what happens. That, and I know for a fact from watching a previous match that they have Spell Pierces in their sideboard. I play the Vault of Whispers and pass the turn, Forest, and a Birchlore Rangers. On the end step, I cycle a Drannith Healer. Creature counting graveyard is 1. Another healer. There are 2 creatures now in the graveyard. Street Wraith, 3 creatures. Looking for that land. Do I find it? Pass the turn, no land. So I'm now flashing the camera. It was too fast for me to see, but it looks like Double Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, Songs of the Damned, Priest of Titania, and some other creature I can't see. Jasper Sentinel? Is that it? Dark Ritual. Looks like we're moving. Alright, Storm is 1, add 3 black mana to my mana pool. Cycle a Monstrous Carabid. And I go the wrong way on the dice, so we're going to change that in just a moment. Cycle an Imposing Vantasaur. It should be 5. Pay a black. Draw a card. So it says 4 right now, but it should be 5. Dark Ritual. Bryant, are you going to realize this? Come on. Fix the dice. I cycle a Drannith Healer. Now it says 5, but it's actually 1 behind. Great Furnace. Cabal Ritual. Yeah, the going the wrong way messed me up. Cycle a Barrenmoor. Tapping the red mana. Looks like I'm about to play a Deadly Dispute. And I do sacrifice the Great Furnace. I'm going to use 2 black mana. I'll create a treasure. 2 cards off the top. Storm is now 4. Cycle a Barrenmoor. Yeah, it looks like I just never corrected the counter for creatures in yard. Some Songs of the Damned. I hope I recount here. We'll see if I do. Looks like no, I just assume that it's right. Bummer, I denied myself a mana there. Reaping the Graves, where I don't have much mana floating. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I realized now that the counter's wrong. And I realized I shorted myself a mana. Street Wraith. So we're cycling the Street Wraith. Cycle the Stinger. Cycle Healer. Using the red mana. Draw. Cycle the Horror of the Broken Lands. Songs of the Damned. So at least I'm making the correct number this time. So now I'm returning a healer. We'll cycle that. Draw a card. Cycle the Monstrous Carabid. Draw a card. Cycle the Imposing Vantasaur. Draw a card. 9 creatures in graveyard. I cycle another creature. Draw a card. I see a Reaping the Graves. Cycle Horror of the Broken Lands. Draw. Lotus Petal. And a Rowan's Grim Search bargaining the Vault of Whispers. Okay. Not a lot of mana left. 4 total. So I see a Dark Ritual. And another Reaping the Graves that I don't need. So I think I keep Lotus Petal Dark Ritual here. I could have bottomed all of them, but I decide that Lotus Petal Dark Ritual is probably good enough. So I cast Dark Ritual. There it is in the graveyard. Yeah, I just wish I was zoomed out a little bit more. I also wonder if, instead of being like, so your default iPhone camera is 1x zoom. I wonder if 0.5 might be nice too, because then you could get like the people's bodies in it a little bit. Like I said, it's just a learning process here where I am learning how to do this. Like, this is my first real tournament doing it, so I will get better in time. All right, so I have a bunch of mana here. It looks like I'm about to cast a Cabal Ritual. But apparently I did. Okay. Into Ardent Elementalist. I remember I Rowan's Grim searched into Cabal Ritual Elementalist, which got back songs. And I remember at this point going like, oh, this game is over. And there's the songs. So if I remember now, I show my opponent my hand and it's just like the nuts and they concede, but we'll see. Okay, bunch of mana. Deadly Dispute. So I guess I waited to show them my hand until after this. Elementalist to the graveyard, treasure token, draw. Lotus Petal, Dark Ritual, Reaping the Graves, and they pick it up. Okay, so that's game number 1. I don't believe I sideboarded at all for this match. I just resubmitted the same configuration. Maybe trying to think, like, did I bring in the Blood Celebrant? I might have brought in the Blood Celebrant. We'll see. The sideboard guide says you want the Blood Celebrant. Like, one of the few ways that they can win is, like, Well-Wisher with Quirion Ranger enough to get up to, like, 150 life. But if they don't breach 100, it doesn't matter. So, I think I end up bringing it in, but we'll see. It was also end of the day, and I knew that I wasn't going to make it, so maybe I didn't. I think my opponent thought that there was a chance because they were like, "Oh, I can't believe I'm facing Bryant Cook for a win in it." And in my head, I was like, "We're not winning it in anything. Like we're playing for 9th or 10th." So there's the 2 Spell Pierces, and they have Dispels. I don't know if I realized that. They have Deglamor. Yeah, I didn't see myself reach for the sideboard, so I don't know if I ended up sideboarding into Blood Celebrant. You're supposed to. I guess I didn't. All right, so I just cut my opponent's deck. They've already shuffled mine, and we're off for the next game. I'm not seeing a land. I don't know if I mulligan this or not. Maybe there's one in there and I just don't see it, but I did not see a land. My opponent takes a mulligan. I don't see myself reaching for the deck, so I'm guessing I capped. All right, well, I just cut my opponent's deck again, and now they're about to draw their 6-card hand. Forest into... I can't even tell what that is. All right, so Great Furnace, they play a land. Priest of Titania. Jasper Sentinel was their first creature. I can't see what this one is. I cycle a healer, cycle another healer, 2 creatures in the graveyard, play Vault of Whispers. And I remember at this point, I'm like telling my opponent, like, hey, I could try to win right now, should I? And they're just like, you got to be kidding me. You're not going to let me untap with the Priest of Titania? And I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, I really could go for a turn 2 win right now, but should I? Should I go for it? That's the question. And ultimately, I decide to pass because I don't think that they're going to be able to do enough. They play land number 3, Timberwatch Elf. They have 1 card left, and it's another Timberwatch Elf. And now I know that they don't have Dispel, so everything worked out perfectly. Like, I'm so glad that I ended up waiting at least this 1 turn. Recycle a Horror of the Broken Lands on the end step. I'll draw a card. Draw for turn. I play a pair of Dark Rituals. Okay, I tell my opponent I'm going to play with my hand face up. At least this way the camera could see. All right, Dark Ritual, Dark Ritual. And the judge thought this was super funny. They're like, the disrespect of playing with your hand up. I'm like, I've won this game, but I need to go through it. And I was like, it'd be better for the camera if they could all see. So I play a pair of Dark Rituals, Storm is 2, cycle a Stinger, another Songs of the Damned, cycle Stinger, draw, Rowan's Grim Search, play Threshold Cabal Ritual, Storm is now 3, we'll go up to 6, and Rowan's Grim Search, paying 3 black, sacrifice the Vault of Whispers, Storm is now 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to put all 4 to the graveyard, draw 2, Cabal Ritual, Songs of the Damned. Play Cabal Ritual. I guess I have to fix the number of creatures in my graveyard, which is now 7. Add a Storm counter. So I make my 5 black. We're going to Deadly Dispute. I float a red. Pay 2 black. Sacrifice the Great Furnace. Add the Storm, and now we'll draw 2. Triple Songs in hand. The 4th Songs and another Stinger. I'm pretty sure my opponent concedes before I actually get to go through it, but we'll see. Cycle the Stinger. 8 creatures in graveyard. Another Deadly Dispute. My Storm is currently 6, and there's 8 creatures in the graveyard. I play Deadly Dispute. Sack the treasure, I'll draw 2. Reaping the Graves, Deadly Dispute. Played, is that? I played a Songs? Yeah, that's the Songs. And I'm just double counting the creatures to make sure. So this is going to be 9 total mana, counting the red that I already have on the board. I play another Songs of the Damned, 8 mana being added, and now Reaping the Graves. Stinger, Wraith, Horror of the Broken Lands, Stinger, Stinger, or a pair of Drannith Healer. So I play out a Stinger, 2 mana. Play out another Stinger, 2 mana. Add a Storm. So I cycle 5, deal them 10. So they go to 10. I'm going to pay 5 black mana here. 3, 4, 5. And now I'm going to draw 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cycle Street Wraith. They'll go to 8. Draw. I think it was another Street Wraith. So then now they go to 6. They go to 4. It was another Street Wraith. That's a Baron more. I'll cycle the Baron more. Game's almost over. Draw. And it's another cycler, and that's the match. So I finished this event 5-2, and now I have to sweat out needing all of the things to go right. I need the pair down to win. I need the match below them to draw. And I need my breakers to be better than Jacob's, aka Kali Kai's. My breakers, by beating my opponent this round, who started off 4-0, jumped about 4 points. And at the end of the event, Jacob's tiebreakers, our first 2 or 3 numbers were identical. And then the 4th number was different. So Jacob beat me out by a hair and ended up getting 9th. I ended up being in 10th, and no X2s made it. It ended up being a clean break. So neither of us made it. It was a pretty good event. I think that in hindsight, I would have played Mystical Teachings. I think that's the one big regret I have. What I would cut, I'm not positive yet. My gut tells me that it's the 4th Cabal Ritual. Some people want to cut like a Cycler. Some other people want to cut a Rowan's Grim Search. I don't think cutting Rowan's Grim Search for another consistency card makes sense. Like, if you're upset that you're not finding songs or reaping the graves, cutting a card that digs 6 deep and is card advantage isn't going to help you. So I think it's supposed to be the 4th copy of Cabal Ritual, but I'm not positive yet. I do think that I put a lot of work into this deck list going in, and I liked where it ended up, but I would just modify it a tiny bit. I had a lot of fun in this event, that's for certain, and I love playing Cycle Storm. It is not boring. I don't care what my opponent says. And thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful day. Keep storming. Hey, you. Yeah, you. Make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you're interested, you can visit theepicstorm.com/donation decks to see your combo deck here on this very YouTube channel. You can even join me in a video in the Epic tier. It's totally worth it, I promise. And see ya. Thanks for watching.